on sportirelandcampus.ie.
This is OTB Sports Radio.
Alright, so you may have heard about a small show that we recorded at the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre this week. We were there in partnership with Cadbury, and we were there also with Roy Keane and with Gary Neville. All with thanks to Cadbury celebrating the third year as official snack partner to the Premier League. All the money raised on the night from ticket sales from that show being donated to Aware, Cadbury Ireland's charity partner. And be sure to check out aware.ie to see all the great work that they're doing around mental health. Now, of course, across the night, there was some strong language on the evening and some stronger opinions as well. Some of the people mentioned in the various stories and anecdotes that the two lads talk about, obviously, may remember events slightly differently. So we're going to jump in right here. Gary talking about Roy's arrival at Old Trafford.
My first experience actually was just of watching him, because I wasn't in the first team squad in obviously the first year that Roy was at the club. Yeah. And thinking about him, actually, I remember playing him right back in a game against Sheffield United, I think, at Old Trafford, and thinking of, you know, his versatility at the time and his energy and his power and his strength. And I remember Brian Robson saying that he was, you know, this is one hell of a player. And Brian Robson didn't hand out compliments lightly. Right. But obviously, as you then sort of grew into the first team as a young player, you've got to remember at the time there was Robson there was Ince, there was Schmeichel, Cantona, Hughes, Pallister, Bruce. I mean, they were monsters. Every single one of them was a captain, a character, a personality. And Roy at that time probably was younger. I mean, he was younger than those lads, and obviously was a huge personality and character, but it hadn't evolved into what it became at that point, I would say. I think what happened was then, obviously, over a period of time, over sort of 2 or 3 years, those lads started to leave. And then obviously Roy emerged into the person and individual that he was, which was the most inspirational football player that I ever played with, and the most demanding player that I ever played with, and actually someone who mirrored the boss. He mirrored the boss, simple as that, on the pitch. He was so like him in the sense of not accepting of a drop in standard, not accepting, you know, but I always say a bad pass was a crime, let alone, you know, giving goals away, or God forbid, not applying yourself or showing a level of professionalism or effort in training or something like that. So when it comes to the point of sort of the 3-4 years going up to sort of 97, 98, 99, then going beyond that, you're talking about the most formidable football player that you would ever see on a football pitch, the person that everybody in the club wanted to see at the front of the line, bar none. And like I said earlier on today, when he left the club, that was a moment that no one in the football club, in the team, in the dressing room wanted to happen. You know, this idea, you know, Roy, obviously, you know, the perception in terms of what he is as a person, in terms of, you know, everyone thinks about, he said himself, I wasn't ranting and raving all the time. He was popular, incredible, like, hugely popular, funny. Caring, loving.
I'll get you a lollipop later for that game.
I'm sorry.
Will you hold it for me?
Sorry, the lollipop?
No, so basically you had this person that you essentially see reported on that you actually don't recognise, because you know him in the change room as someone completely different. And to be fair, being with him today, you know, and the people who've been with him today from sort of, you know, from Cadbury's or from, you know, you see the person actually, you see, you know, in that, we did a Q&A at lunch today, and you see the individual that he is. But actually, will not accept a drop in standard, will not accept mediocrity in any way, shape or form. And that seems to be a problem for other people, that he has high standards, but it was never a problem for us in our dressing room. Our dressing room, to be fair, responded to it. If other people don't respond to it, it's because they've never seen the standard that he's aspiring to get to. And I always say in life that people think they work hard. Everyone thinks they work hard until you've seen someone work harder, and then you think, okay, I'll go and aspire to that. And then someone thinks, oh, he works hard, but then you work harder again, and then you see someone else. And until you've seen a standard, then you never really know where you're at in life, and that's the reality of life. You can only really be what you've seen. And we were very fortunate. I had Roy Keane as a captain, Sir Alex Ferguson as a manager, and surrounded by the likes of, growing up, Brian Kidd, Nobby Stiles, people who just set the most incredibly high standards, and there was never a break in that. And from our point of view as young lads, of course there was an element of talent and we did well and we were professional, but we had people who basically guided us and mentored us to a level that we could see and think that's what we were trying to climb to all the time. And I think that would be my take on Roy and his career at United and sort of his influence upon the club and ourselves.
The way you talk about Roy there, and you've said before that he made you feel 10 feet tall when you were walking out onto a pitch. Have you ever had anyone else in the dressing room that was in any way comparable?
No, because my captains at United, to be fair, when I broke through, were Eric, who was... No, I mean, Eric was an icon, an incredible player, but I personally wouldn't respond to Eric in the way in which I would respond to Roy. Because, to be fair, Eric was different leader. He led by example. He was a match winner, very determined, wanted to be the very best that he could, had incredibly high standards. But, to me, I didn't personally, I responded to him, but not in the way in which obviously I would do with Roy. But Steve Bruce was a great captain, again, who I played under, but again was different than Roy, different qualities, I would say. I think, to be fair, the person who I would say in a different way, and I gave him a really hard time because he played in front of me for 2 or 3 years, was Cristiano Ronaldo. But actually, when he got to a level that he did in 2007-8, and I was playing behind him at that time, just before I got injured, I thought it was almost magical, that. Because a player who, to be fair, ignored essentially his position, ignored instruction, didn't defend the way in which you wanted him to defend, defied logic actually in terms of how United as a club was over a 15-20 year period where everyone defends, everyone attacks, we don't carry anybody. And we didn't carry him by any stretch of the imagination, but if he wanted to play right wing but then decided that he wasn't enjoying it, he'd go and play left, and I'd be like, what are you doing? Get back over here. Yeah. And essentially that was probably wrong. You know what I mean? Telling Cristiano, but the reality of it is, he then went on to become something magical for 2 seasons. So not in the same way. I always say that, to be fair, Roy was the most influential player that I ever played with, and there's no one that gets close to him. Yeah. But I suppose in different ways, you could be inspired by Cristiano in a sense.
It's a different kind of thing. Around that time, when you're moving towards the treble, 90s and on, building up towards the treble year, for you, Roy, was Ferguson hands-on with your game? Was he, the way you see Pep when Raheem Sterling comes off and he's like, I want you to do that and that and that, and it's very detailed. What did Ferguson do, if anything, to teach you the game or improve your game? Or what was that relationship?
It wasn't slightly different to the modern manager now, shall we say. They're more hands-on. I obviously played for great managers, Alex Ferguson and Brian Clough, who was more about man management and managing the group. They weren't really hands-on in terms of the training sessions, but they knew the game inside out. And what I always enjoyed working with them, and I had the same with Martin, with Ireland, they weren't necessarily hands-on coaches, but they knew the game, and their messages were very straightforward and simple. And Alex Ferguson, I'm sure, if he was sitting here, would be the first to say I think he criticised me a little bit when I left, saying I was trying to run the dressing room. But we did run the dressing room. We did, not just me. You don't have to be a captain to be a leader, but there was brilliant characters. So we took care of all that. We created, I know, I'm always a bit wary of using this word. There was a great culture at Man United where it was like a machine, sort of training sessions. And obviously Alex Ferguson was clever. He had always good coaches, the Steve McLarens, Kiddo, obviously earlier. So the sessions were always good. But the players would make the sessions. It'd always be, everyone would, and it seems strange, people look at you and go, we would give it 100% every session we done. Doesn't mean to say the quality was always there. You'd have an off day. But Alex Ferguson would step back and almost let the players manage the session and let the coaches get on with it. Yeah. But then I look back at my time with Alex Ferguson, all the team talks he had is obviously knowledge of the game. And I think the really brilliant managers almost smell what needs to be said in the dressing room. Obviously there's a famous one, what I said in the book, lads, is Tottenham, and that's probably harsh, probably on Tottenham, but he would come in as a senior player, and Gary would, in a dressing room, and this team talk, this video, you can be brainwashed with all that stuff, and And I always felt Alex Ferguson, Brian Clough was the same. I always felt the group of players, they would just say what the group just needed to hear at that particular time, whether it be before the game, half time. At United, generally speaking, we always played 4-4-2, and it was a case of going at teams. It's the odd time in Europe we might play a 3 in the middle, so all their instructions were very, very straightforward. I never felt confused with Alex Ferguson. Ironically, the same with Brian Clough. Before my debut at Liverpool, Brian Clough, in the dressing room before the game, and I kind of have to remind myself of it, he said to me before my debut, he said, I've seen you playing, obviously I'd been playing with the reserves. He says, you can control it. And I said, yeah. He said, you can pass it. I said, yeah, and you can run. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, just do them 3 things. And that was my career. And people laugh, but a lot of players can't do them things, believe it or not. Sure. A lot of professional players can't control it, pass it or run. They might have 1 or 2 of the 3. Sure. So I knew I had that. So that was my career in a nutshell. Obviously, when I went to United after Forest, obviously the higher level you go up, you have to do it quicker and faster, blah, 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 of course. But Alex Ferguson he was good at managing the group. Yeah. Gary mentioned Eric there, for example. He'd be clever with Eric. He'd give Eric... like, for example, it's only a daft little thing, but obviously United was always smart, club suits and all this, and very respectful when we travelled, and Eric might turn up in a suit with a pair of trainers, whereas if that was one of us, you'd definitely be fine, or you'd be in trouble. Whereas, Eric, leave him off, he's French, you'd be like, fucking hell, yeah. And then because he knew he'd manage Eric, and he'd go, but then Eric would probably win you the game on the Saturday. To me, that's management. Sure. You have to just kind of give lads a bit of toffee here and there. Gary mentioned Ronaldo. There's stuff Ronaldo was doing in terms of not being a kind of a team player in a sense, but you forgive a fella for that stuff if he's winning you the game. If fellas aren't running back, we used to go mad at Eric sometimes in games. He'd give it away. He'd go, Eric, bang, 1-0, winner, Eric. You go, I'll forgive you for the other stuff. Yeah. And that's what good players and good characters do. But I wouldn't be too critical of Alex Ferguson, I have to say. I'm not one for holding grudges, No,
I've heard that, yeah.
That last sentence was disconnected to the rest of the speech.
Well, we did want to talk a bit more about the treble and the years afterwards, but actually we'll do that. We'll come to the end with Ferguson and where that is now. When you did your cruciate in '98, is that any kind of turning point for you? I heard different things. I was reading somewhere that you, in that year out, might have watched a few games on MUTV, old games, and saw yourself and been a bit unhappy, and because you seem to come back leaner, real peak.
Well, I learned a lot when I was out for the year, but the week in terms of when I'd done my cruciate kind of summed up where I was really as a player. My career was going places, and I was at United and things were going great. I think we played Liverpool on the Wednesday night. Leeds was at the Saturday. About learning the game. I think we're all students of the game, and I love watching games. No, I'd watch any game. Right. But anyway, the Wednesday night, I think we beat Liverpool 1-0, and on the Wednesday night, Old Trafford, always the case. My mentality was always after a game, because I was quite an intense person after a game. And these were bad habits I was after getting into, particularly when I played League of Ireland, when I went to Forest. It was always a case of definitely go for a few pints after the game. Always, win or lose, all that, hit the booze. I'd always go for a few pints. That was my way of switching off. Other people would do other stuff. I go, no, listen, I'm going for a few pints. So went out on the Wednesday night, and when you go out after a game, it's going to be a late night, because by the time you start drinking, it's 11 o'clock. And if you want to get steamed up, it's going to be 3 or 4. No, I'm serious. Jesus. And so anyway, Wednesday night, I remember I left the hotel. I was drinking at this bar near Old Trafford. I'll try and fast forward the story. Ended up having an argument with a fella. So the third, we're playing Leeds on the...
Would that happen often on the drink?
No, Jesus, okay. No, right. Once a week. No, very rare, Jesus. No, so we played Leeds on the Saturday morning. I remember we were losing, and Haaland had been irritating me for a number of years anyway. And I'd done something daft. I don't think I deserved to snap my knee. Yeah. And because we used the subs, I had to go back on. And after the game, the physio, Dave Fever, was a brilliant physio, ex-Wigan rugby league physio, so he knew all about cruciates. And in the dressing room, my knee, I knew I was in trouble. Jesus, I didn't need a surgeon to tell me. And he said, yeah, you're in a bad way with the knee. Had an operation. I remember having an operation and had to let the knee settle down. Had a cruciate operation about 5-6 weeks later. And then you are at a crossroads. You're 20, I think I would have been 28, and I'm going. So I had the operation, and I remember speaking to 2 surgeons at United. For some reason, had 2 surgeons looking after me, which was brilliant. So they gave me the lecture at the hospital. You know, you're at a crossroads with your career, but if you do things properly, you should be all right. You know, you still a number of years left in your career. The sports science changing. You've got a great physio, and I'm nodding my head, going, yeah, you know, I'm kind of. I love being fit anyway, and it's a setback, but I'll deal with it. And I literally went out that night for a few pints on crutches. Yet the surgeons are telling me you're at a crossroads. I'm going, yeah, brilliant. Yeah. I'll do everything to come back. Oh, but I'm going out tonight. And so there was elements. And then when you're out for the year, and at the old training ground, the Cliff, it's not like the modern gyms now. There's no windows. You're just and it's a lonely place when you're injured. But I kind of enjoyed that determination to get back. But you do analyse your game. I wasn't necessarily going to watch United games, but I would look at other teams. I'd look at other midfielders, and obviously made a promise to myself. And that's when I said I'd better cop myself on that when I come back, I would. And so unfortunately, sometimes you need a bad injury, and I'm sure there's people here who played sports. You need a bad injury to appreciate the game a bit more. Even though I always felt I loved the game, but maybe, just maybe, I was taking things for granted with my lifestyle and drinking after games and all this carry on. So when I came back from the cruciate, I was quite. I came back quite lean and ready to kickstart my career again. But then on the other hand, then I went to extremes. You know, I looked towards the end of my career, even though I was 31, 32, body fat levels, I was really gaunt looking. I took diets to the extremes. You know, a lot of sports people are extremists, and I went then too far the other way. I remember I went to a detox in Milan. You know, the lads used to go to that Giggsy, and some of the French lads went to a detox place in Milan for 4 days, and I was like, oh, I'll try that, you know. And they said for 4 days or 5 days, you go to 4 or 5 days, I went, but you don't get fed in 4 or 5 days. I remember going, well, surely they'll give you pizza in the evening or something. And I went, and they don't feed you for 4 or 5 days. And I remember coming back, and my wife, and I was trying all these diets, fish, no protein and carb, and I remember I was kind of cold all the time, and I kept getting dead legs, and it only takes your mother to tell you. My mother came over, I was about 30, 31, she went, what's happened to you? And I went, I'm kind of a fitness freak now, you know, I'm just eating salads all the time. And listen, when you play in the middle of the park, in Premiership games, salads will not do, you know. Fucking trust me, you need a bit of red meat, you need proper... So from being a bit of a fool and being a boy out and about drinking, I then went too far extreme on the diets, right. And eventually I caught myself on, and what I try and do now, Chris, if I can with the food, everything in moderation. Okay. It's a long answer, that, wasn't it?
Good.
Really?
It's good. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, but the cruciate was a learning curve for me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think, to be fair, what Roy's just said mirrored actually the Premier League.
Sure.
Because when we came into the first team, the lads would go out after a game on a Wednesday, and they'd go out after a game on a Saturday, and sometimes even some go out on a Sunday. And as young lads, we'd been educated in sort of like a new type of way. This wasn't good for you. This wasn't right. The nutritionist was in there, and Trevor came in. But you had this sort of like 4 or 5 players, 6 players left in the team that had been part of what had been the sort of culture under, you know, you remember when I first came into the team, Steve Bruce, Brian Robson, Paul, it was normal to do this, Pally. And we were sort of part of like the Premier League, and it just changed completely. Wenger came in, nutritionists came in, and what Roy's just talked about there is actually the evolving nature between what was the essentially 70s and 80s and the Premier League, which became, if you like, a far more professional sports science-based years. But what happened was that everybody then, you know, your body fat went down to 5-6%, which is it's ridiculous.
What were you?
About 7.5, 8, and I was 13 when I joined the club. But then the problem is, it became a point of how low can you get, how perfect can you become, how professional can you become. We were already sort of, because the boss had tried to change the culture generally, even when he first came to the club, you know, he tried to move it a little bit, he knew that it was changing. But to be fair, what Roy's career, does is actually split that. He's lucky that he was able to change. Some players, You know, the particular ones that I played with England were not able to actually go from being a player that did that to a player that then became, if you like, a modern player, one that actually bought in and was open to sports science.
Sorry to interrupt. Was that a hard change? Like, are you sitting there on a Wednesday going, oh.
It was a bit... No, I'm better off to talk about this than him.
Yeah.
Because I witnessed it. I saw it. You know, I saw it in him in terms of everybody did in the change room, this massive this big moment of shift, complete shift. You know, not that he wasn't unprofessional before. He was basically doing what every other player was doing for sort of 25, 30 years. But then to actually just say, no, I'm going to absolutely change, it's a massive shift that in your life. And people who've made those sort of big changes and big shifts, I'd say it was 99, 2000, wasn't it? It was 99, 2000 this happened. And all of a sudden his fitness, his body fat, but everyone else then responded to that. Okay. Because if the best player in the team and the most influential player is here again, getting to 5-6%, you can't be 12. You can't be 9. You've got to try and that's essentially again a driving of standard. And I think that was pushed right the way through. And obviously, sports science now has changed again. But it was a massive shift. I genuinely believe we won the league 5 times in 6 years, from '95 through to 2001. Obviously, there's an element of talent, but I think fitness was I think we were fitter. We were more professional. You remember the Spice Boys of the time. You know, Neil Ruddock, Phil Babb, Jason McAteer, Fowler, John Scales, you know, all them lads, they loved a pint. And you know something? A pint of beer will cost you the league if you drink 10 a night, 3 times a week. And the fact of the matter is, if you've got a team that's drinking 6-7 pints 3 times a week, or 6-7 pints twice a week, and you've got a team that are not drinking 6-7 pints twice a week, forget talent, forget professionalism. Yeah. The difference is enormous in terms of how you feel. You know how you feel yourselves when you have a pint, you wake up the morning after and you go to work and it's like, it's fucking hard work. You do that twice a week, but you actually go in fresh and don't drink for a week and try and you feel, and that's the relative, is you eat better, you look after yourself more, and you'll be mentally stronger, you'll be physically better, and actually that can be, if someone's even 10% more talented than you, you'll jump above them. Sure. And I genuinely believe that's what happened at United for a period of 4 or 5 years, and that's why Arsenal, to be fair, under Arsene Wenger, was strong.
And it can't be a coincidence that as that change of mindset's happening, you go and win the treble. And we could talk about that for an hour and the memorable games during the run-in. Is there one moment that, sort of 20 years on, that you still cherish of that time? Can you narrow it down?
What, to that one season, you mean? 99?
To that run-in.
I just think it was a combination of lots of stuff. There's never... A lot of fans seem to remember certain games as semi-final or the final, but sometimes I'd always go back and, even through a league campaign, there might be a victory you might have had in March or something, and you just knew at the time this was a vital victory. Of course, again, people will remember maybe towards the finishing line. But there's no games really stand out for me where I go, yeah, that was a turning point. I think it was a combination of many years of hard work. You go back to '99, for example, but what you need in sport as well, and I think we're the first to admit as well, we can sit up all night and say, talent, lads worked hard, but you need a bit of luck in this game. Plenty of breaks in that season. If you remember, even 10 people get even the first leg in the semi-final, Juventus should have won the game at Old Trafford. Do you remember, Gary? Yeah. You're probably better, memories better than mine. But they had 2 or 3 great chances. The game should have been dead and buried. But what you have to do at the top level sport as well, and United, again, your memory can play tricks on you, as if United, we were brilliant every week and winning games comfortably. No, we weren't. But what we do, we'd stay in games, or we'd keep going till the end. Again, go back to it, no coincidence, a lot of late goals, etc. And honestly, a bit of luck. You need a bit of luck along the way. Have you
allowed yourself to concede that, having played 12 or 13 games in the Champions League, that you were a massive part of them winning the European Cup, or is there an asterisk in your head?
I suppose deep down, I probably don't feel I have won it. No, but but I don't necessarily want 1 or 2 games to try and define my career either. And again, I remember thinking at the time, well, hopefully the danger in sport as well, you go, well, hopefully get back next year or the year after, and then you find out your career's over, you go, I didn't get back to another final. There's other semi-finals, I think it was Leverkusen games you think probably should have won. So when you do get these moments, you have to try and enjoy them. But when I see other players, I know the formats change. I think, again, for that season, the Champions League games, I think there was 13 or 14 games in total, and obviously I played in every one bar the final. Do I feel like I deserve the medal? You know, strange enough, probably not. But that's no big deal. That was the game we're in. The way I played, I always played on the edge. I was always going to pick up a few yellow cards. I was always going to pick up injuries. I was going to get sent off the odd time. That was the way I played. So I can't be picking and choosing and going, well, I had a decent career. Yeah, I had a decent career because I had to play that way. I remember sometimes there'd be games, particularly pre-season or, just say, for example, pre-season or maybe friendly games. Unless I was really at it, I was such a bad player. I kind of had to be at it 100%, that intensity, what gave me the career. So I can't then, on one hand, going, yeah, but I ended up missing that final, but I wouldn't have had the career without that. So you can't have your cake and eat it. You know, there was going to be sacrifices along the way, and that was going to be me missing games. Obviously, same for Scholesy. Scholesy obviously was fortunate enough to get back a few years later when they beat Chelsea. But it doesn't keep me awake at night. I don't go to bed at night going, I wish I didn't get a yellow card in this game. People always remember the yellow card I got in the semi-final, but I'd obviously got a yellow card against Inter Milan in the quarter-final, and I knew once I got the yellow card in the quarter-final, I thought I'll do well to get through the next few games.
Right.
So, yeah. But that's life. No big deal.
Yeah.
I think the type of team that we had, I mean, Scholesy and Roy missed the final. But I also think they're the type of people that if they'd not played in the previous 12 and only played one game in the final, they would also say that they didn't deserve it.
Probably, yeah.
They're the type of people those two were.
Yeah.
They wouldn't take credit for, they don't feel like they should win it because they didn't play in the final, but if they'd played no games up till the final and just played in the final, they'd probably think that they didn't deserve it as well, and that's the sort of...
Sorry to interrupt, just while you're talking and that picture's up, can you remember, are you just thinking there, oh, just smile, Roy, smile?
Yeah, it's weird. I think we'd gone back into the dressing room. I think we'd been back in. I think me and Scholes had gone in, and the players were coming in, and some of the staff saying, oh, you've got to go out and all this, and you were like, like, whatever you say, obviously you're kind of putting on an act there.
You've been out for lunch that day, though, haven't you?
No, I don't think so. No, we hadn't. But what we had to, in fairness, we had a good crack a few days. The benefit of being suspended, me and Scholesy were out every night, a couple of nights before the game.
I thought you were a professional then.
But there was definitely an element, because after the game, I think we obviously stayed up all night, as you would, drinking and eating salads. And we... So I think me and Scholesy were definitely the worst in the morning, but I think there was an element of drowning our sorrows as well. But we had a couple of nights out in Barcelona because I was rooming with Dennis Irwin, and I don't think Dennis was too pleased with me because I was kind of coming in early in the morning, and I don't think I was jumping on him or messing around, but he could hear me coming in, and he's getting ready for a match, so I was a bit unprofessional for them few days.
I always remember Scholesy coming over to me in the pre-match and shaking my hand and thinking, fucking hell. Do you know the emoji? It's like he don't know about emojis, so.
There is footage after the semi-final in Turin when everybody goes back into the dressing room and Dwight York is dancing around in celebration, and you're on one side of the dressing room and Paul Scholes is on the other side, and you just can't be with it. And
yeah, but do you know what? Even if I wasn't suspended, I don't think I would have been jumping around like Yorkie anyway. People think even we won certain big games. I don't think I was ever one for like going overboard, especially semi-final, because remember, you still think, well, we still have to win the final. Yeah. Listen, I would have been happy, of course, but I wouldn't have been jumping around the place anyway, even if I wasn't suspended. And also, part of the upset, I think it was probably the same for Scholesy as well in United. You're also missing out on a pretty big bonus, for the final. So that
you get that
hurt. I got it back in my next contract in the negotiations, but yeah. But I think I know the rules have changed. I think if players are suspended now, they can play and all this. And I think that's probably right, because I think it's hard. After 12 games, the player can be suspended for the final.
Terrible,
it is. It's tough on players, but that's life. Yeah. Jesus, worst things happening.
It's funny, every time you say final now, I just see Ian Wright in my head screaming, final.
Who?
Ian Wright. We won't go into it, the World Cup last year.
No, I thought you were going to mention John Terry.
No. it'd be very. So you're those few years after the treble, this brilliant team, not an old team. You know, you guys are early 20s. You're peak, and you're winning the championships pretty easy domestically. And then you mentioned the Leverkusen game. There's.
Well, I cut you up there a bit.
Yeah.
You said you're winning the championships easily.
Yeah. Hard.
Yeah. You don't win championship easily. Don't kid yourself, man.
I'd accept that.
Let's get the facts right here.
Yeah.
That's the Liverpool fans.
Yeah, no, fair point. You're winning them well by a good margin.
Yeah, but it was tough.
Yeah, and it was tough. You mentioned the Leverkusen game. There was the Madrid game.
Yeah.
There was Bayern Munich. The Porto won Mourinho up to... Like, this is the wrong way of putting it, so go easy on me here with this word. Did that team underachieve not to win a second European Cup, or what happened, or did the game move on and 4-4-2 didn't cut it, or what's your sense of what happened to that team?
No, there was definitely... I definitely felt at the time the group of players we had, I think if I'd won the Champions League even once with United, I don't think that would have satisfied me. We always felt, especially some of the games I think we let go, a couple of semi-finals that you've just mentioned, I think the Leverkusen game certainly, and obviously the Mourinho, the Porto one, I think that was a quarter-final. But that's top-level sport. You know, it's cruel.
Yeah.
So you're on about easy. You have to go and earn the right to win it, and you need a bit of luck. You know, you look at the Porto game. I think, again, my memory's not great, but we definitely won up. Scholes, he had a goal, didn't he, disallowed, which was, I think, it was some dodgy linesman. Anyway, obviously there was no VAR. And these are moments. These are defining moments in a game where you go, if you can get over the line with that, but
so you didn't detect any sense of we've won the treble? Well, hey, in any parts of the dressing room, like.
No chance.
No chance.
No, that would not. And then again, I go back to it earlier about there was certainly I never, in my time at Man United, I ever was in the dressing room where there'd be pre-season after we'd won something or, listen, with big disappointments, where I felt as a group of players, we felt, you know, this is great, we're the main, we just have to turn up, and it doesn't happen that way. I never felt at United, well, Gary might be different, but I just always felt that there was a bloody desire there was a hunger, it came down from the manager and the staff, the demands of the supporters. I even remember when I went to United, people talk about pressure. People are always using that word, pressure. Pressure's great. Pressure's brilliant. Imagine playing for a team where there was no pressure.
Yeah.
You guys, at United, 70,000 every week, home and away, the fans travelling on, the demands they put in you, I used to love that. I always worry when people don't put demands on you or don't put pressure on you.
Yeah.
Jesus, there's something drastically wrong there. But we were never blasé about our success. We never thought next year will be easy. You know, sometimes you might just win a league and you go, is it that enough? Should we be winning more Champions League? Should we, FA Cup doubles, surely we should be winning more doubles and all this. It's tough going. It's tough going winning these titles.
And would you be having those conversations in the dressing room when you come back in for pre-season when you didn't have the success in Europe?
No, I think it was just, you just smell it in the air going, no, lads, we've got to kick on again. And when we did win the odd trophy, you'd move on pretty quickly. Listen, you'd go out, we've had great nights and the drink, brilliant. Of course, you have to switch off as well. And you have to celebrate the highs in sport because you actually don't get that many. But also you have to move on quickly. I see and hear players celebrating a bit of success they had 10 years ago. Even though when people say to, I don't know what Gary's like, when they say to me, go, oh, you had a good career, I kind of cringe going, just move on. Jesus Christ, it was a number of years ago. And when you're playing for Man United, and people go, oh, you won a few trophies. Well, yeah, what do you expect? We weren't playing for Yeovil. Man United, we're going to win trophies with bloody good players, with a good manager, great support, great characters. Jesus, work it out. We're going to be in the mix.
So simple.
Did you get any sense that there was any kind of hint of resting on laurels or anything post-treble?
No, I mean, the club were, I suppose in some ways we lost Peter Schmeichel, and it was a huge influence on our team in terms of his presence, character, his ability. We didn't, as a club, we weren't aggressive in the transfer market after the treble for probably 2 or 3 years, which probably because of ultimately culminated in the fact that we had a fantastic squad. But then obviously from a point of view, I did think we missed sort of PT. You know,
through a few different keepers.
Yeah, it became that period, which was probably we won the league for 2 years, but then after that we had a difficult few years. And it culminated in, I can't blame the goalkeepers, but just essentially it's such an essential position. Yeah. And then when Edwin came back in, it seemed to sort of change again a little bit, because obviously he was a big player. But no, I mean, Roy makes everything sound very simple, because I think, to be fair, you can simplify life into, when people say, what is achievement? Achievement is, to be fair, giving your all every single day and never giving in. And if you think like that every single day, I think that was just an essential thing. There was never sort of like, there was never inquests or these sort of big, Churchillian speeches at the start of the year where you'd say, everyone's got to do it again this year. It was just a matter of course. That's what happened. You just came back in and you trained and you basically worked as hard as you possibly could and you never gave in. And the standard, to be fair, you were there for a reason in the first place, that you had a level of talent that the manager believed in, so you trust him on that side. And then the other bit was down to the players in terms of their ability and their willingness to want to do it again. And there's no doubt the manager would have obviously jumped upon it if he sensed that a player didn't meet the quality standard or didn't meet the effort or the sort of, if you like, the determination part. So I think it was quite simple. You can complicate life. I mean, every single one of us in here has a choice every single day whether we want to get up in the morning, do our very best and never give in. That is it. If you can say at the end of your sort of working day each day that you've done that, then what more can you do? Yeah. And I think that's what happened at United. And where Roy tries to obviously, explain there about the standards and the work ethic, every single player was like that. Every single player. There wasn't anybody that dropped below that standard, always, because the standard had been set by the senior players and by the manager.
Yeah. Roy, your final year is obviously abruptly ended. It seems, reading various things you've written or interviews about it, like the chemistry was off. There were rumblings from a few months out, even pre-season in Portugal, argument over whether you want to stay in the villa where you feel more comfortable with your family and Carlos Queiroz, and then you break your foot and you come back and Queiroz isn't overly welcoming, you feel, when you come back. Chucksy Abib, you stand up front, you be up front. What's your, like, do you feel, did you, yeah, I'm sure your reaction. What, did you get a bad feeling? Like, did you feel something's really off here and this is going to end?
Yeah, there was. Again, you're talking about going back pre-season. I remember it was the first time at United, they said, remember the families come and join us in Portugal pre-season. I wasn't a great lover of that stuff, I always think if you're training, you're professional, keep the families away, just have boundaries, even with your own family. But I won't bore you up. But yeah, Carlos was a strange one. Carlos, even when I came back, and this was before when I broke my foot at Liverpool, I'd hurt my hamstring in pre-season. I remember I was due to come back, and it kept, usually when you're injured and you're a first-team player, you go back and you train with the reserves for a week or two, of course, and you get your fitness levels up. But he was keeping me, he was saying, no, you're not ready to join back in. And I don't know if Gary remembers, I remember eventually I did come back in and back in training with the first team, but this was still early in the season. I want you to stand there on the training pitch and we go, yeah, we're going to have a 8v8 or 9v9, here's your teams. And I remember, I'll never forget it, and I remember Carlos, and he kind of called out the teams. And I stood there, and again, I'm a senior player at the club who I thought I'd had a decent career at United. I was into my last year of my contract, and I probably thought this would probably be my last year anyway. I never felt the club owed me anything. I had no hang-ups on any of that stuff. No problem. Listen, I had a good go off it. And there was incidents, and I said, oh, Carlos, and I was stood there, and I always remember, I don't know if Gary remembers it, and he picked up a bib and he just threw it at me. He says, you just stand up front. I remember going, okay. He's added to the list. But because I was on the train and going, listen, I don't know. Again, if people think, I didn't kick off. And I remember the players afterwards going, Jesus, you were calm with all that stuff. I says, yeah. And then later on when I broke my foot, and strangely enough, we go back to this famous video I was supposed to have done. I'm going to blame Gary a little bit for this, because I think Gary was supposed to do the game, but I was back out with my broken foot. And the manager said to me, if you want to go off on holiday, and I ended up in Dubai, and the United game against Middlesbrough was on the television in the hotel. I am watching it, and I swapped. Gary was doing a game, and I definitely, do you remember? Yeah, and I swapped with Gary. I said, well, I do that game because I'm not here. Each player took a turn every week of analysing the game you just played in MUTV under the United umbrella. So I came back and I had to do the Middlesbrough game, where I think it was 4-1 or 4-2. I think Middlesbrough won 4-1 or 4-2 or something. So I'm watching the game, as you do for MUTV. It's happening. You analyse, you go, I thought you could have done better. No, I didn't think it was anything too dramatic.
What's genuinely, what would you feel might have been the worst thing you said, or the thing that would have crossed the line publicly?
I can tell
I'd get rid of all of them. No, honestly, I'm the first to be critical of myself, but afterwards, when the next few days where it really took off, whereas the video has been destroyed, and I'm going, destroyed? That's a bit strong. Because I remember thinking that, going, and then I started to doubt myself, what did I say on the video? And then the United spin, and I think because I was into the man last year, Carlos definitely had issues with me. Whether he thought I was too strong in the dressing room, I don't know. And there was definitely a bit of tension there. There's no getting away from it. Yeah. In all my time at United, sometimes there was tension early in my career. I remember I fell out with Alex Ferguson about, and I think he was going to say, Leeds were in for me or something at the time, and Robbo was at Middlesbrough, and in his office, and it was proper heated, you know. But I was a kind of really important asset to Man United then. I was now 34. I was trying to see it from their point of view. He's 34. He's the captain. He's maybe losing his way a little bit. My influence on the team, even though my last game was at Anfield, we drew 0. I remember I was able to hold my own. I don't think my career was. I was in free fall because I was doing a job in the middle of the park, sitting there, which I think I could have done with my eyes closed anyway, because my experience. So then this video thing started really getting nasty, and the media were saying. I remember going, where's this gone to, this kind of video thing? And eventually with Ferguson, and then before we know, we're having a heated argument in front of all the players. My only consolation before I left Man United, and as I said, I'm first to say if I've kind of stepped out of the line, but put it this way, Man United, for the video, I got a letter about a week later, United tried to fine me £5,000 for my video. 5,000, trust me. I've been fined a lot more at Man United for sending offs. So 5,000, if a player gets you get fined 5,000 for being late. Sure. That was a kind of small fine. And I remember I appealed it. I said, I'm not paying the 5,000. I did. I've been fined before. I've been fined hundreds of £1,000s. And I went, yeah, I'll take it. I got sent off. I should have never appealed anything. And I think because of it, I appealed a fine. I think Ferguson went, oh, you're kind of challenging me now. Yeah. But I wasn't paying no fine because I thought the video was fine. And the key for me, again, kind of skipping a few bits and pieces here, I ended up watching the video with the players and the staff. And I remember we were all walking up to watch the video. Listen, Gary might say something different, I don't. And I remember walking up to the video with the players. I went, we need to watch this because, lads, this is not true. What I was supposed to have spoke about players' wages. I had no interest in other people's wages. That was none of my business. Yeah. But I think United was giving that stuff out. I think the United machine was like, come on, you know, especially with the World Cup after Saipan, people were saying, yeah, well, let's just paint a picture. People need to look at the facts. And we ended up, and I went, can we watch the video? This video that was destroyed. And we watched the video, and I remember looking and going, I hope it's not as bad as I think. Yeah. And when I watched it, it was okay. I didn't think for 1 minute I was out of order. I was like, oh, thank God. And then the manager put it to all the players. We were in his office. He went, lads, have any of you got a problem? I think Fletch said something, or maybe you could have been a bit easy on some, but not too major. All the other players are going, no, we know Roy, we got beaten 4-1 or 4-2. I had to do the video. It could have been Gary's. It could have been me the following week doing a game we'd won. What was I supposed to say? Oh, the lads played great. We lost 4-1 or 4-2. And then that's when, and before you know it, Carlos said something to me. I told him where to go. And then, again, the madness of it all. You're on about, I'm an experienced player. I was 34 at the time. A week or two later, I was getting due to play a reserve game. Alex Ferguson wouldn't let me play in it. He said, get your solicitor up. And I remember meeting my solicitor I think it was a Friday morning. I met him at a hotel near the airport. He'd come up from London. And he said, what's this meeting about? I've been called up to see him. And I said, no, they probably want to get rid of me. He couldn't believe it. And Michael is a clever guy, good at negotiation. He'd done my contracts at United. I think United had a lot of respect for him. So we go in to see United, me and Michael. This was about 9 o'clock. The players obviously were playing on the train on the Friday. We were playing, I think, Charlton away on the Saturday. Again, stop me if I'm wrong. I'll wait till I'm finished. So I go into an office. Are these your questions? So I go into an office. David Gill's there with Alex Ferguson. I'd worked with Alex Ferguson for 12 and a bit years. If he wanted to say, right, chat, listen, our days are numbered. Your contract in the summer, we'd shake hands. No problem. Yeah. Listen, I'll survive. Don't worry. And David, he said, look, Roy, I think we've come to the end of it. And I remember looking at him going, right, And my solicitor's he's gone white, Michael. And he says, yeah, we've done a statement, passed across the statement. We'd like to thank you for 11.5 years of service. And I went, all right. I said, just to let you know, I've been here 12.5, you know. This is true, but this is all part of the game, you know, to kind of... And they went, and the two of them looked at each other, David Gill and Ferguson, going, oh, is it 12.5? Oh, is it 12? I said, yeah, I can. The first year we won the double, you know. All right. And they said, you and Michael, we'll give you and Michael 5 minutes to yourselves or whatever. And I said, well, if I leave, can I sign for somebody? And Ferguson went, yeah, because your contract would be terminated. And this was a Friday. I remember going, right, forget about payoffs and all that, carry on. And he left. And my solicitor was with Michael, and Michael went, what do you reckon to this? I went, yeah, let's get out of here. Yeah. Right, no. I said, no. And what I should have done, obviously, listen, I should have done my homework. I should have found out if I could sign for a team, because ultimately, this was what I think. And I remember I was still coming back from my broken foot. Yeah. I wasn't up to speed. I obviously later found out that weekend I couldn't go to a club until January, which caused problems because of my fitness levels. And that was the end of it. And I remember going home, and I was home at all 9:30. It's not as if it dragged up for the day, negotiate. Yeah. And Michael stayed there. He was doing the contract. And I remember Michael ringing me home going, United apparently, they've got cash flow problems in terms of any money, you know. And they can stick it, you know. Listen, you know, Man United cash flow problems, do me a favour. And that was it. But then all the other stuff that came out afterwards, as if I'd done something really bad. But as much as I'm not one for carrying grudges, I wouldn't forgive Ferguson for that. No, and again, I'm the first to say, if he shut me and go, listen, right, go on January, no problem. And then obviously you leave then the kind of media spin-off. I was ranting and raving, I'd upset everybody, did. All nonsense, but listen, I've been on that road before.
On that, in the office. So, and Gary, I'll bring you in 1 second, but... So
there was one other player said something, I remember. There was. Edwin van der Sar said something. Edwin had been in the door about 2 minutes. And he went... he'd been at the club, and I remember he was doing interviews left, right, and said, and I remember when I said, lads, you got a problem, Fletcher? You could have said that different. I said, yeah, maybe. But they went, yeah, we get it, no problem. And Edwin had his hand up, and he went, Roy, I think you could have been a bit... I went, Edwin, I think I told Edwin to shut up. I said, Edwin, you've been at this club 2 minutes. You've done more interviews in the last 2 months than I've done in 12.5 years. So he was the only one who got a little bit of stick in the meeting.
Yeah. To be fair, in your book, and then Gary, please come in. But
Gary would probably say the opposite.
Well, maybe, yeah. No, in your own book, though,
I've got some questions.
Yeah. Well, then come in straight after. But in your own book, you would concede.
No, they're better than yours, honestly.
I know, I'm sure. But can I just, because you would say that you turn to. Do you? It's just a point. I just want to see if we're talking.
It's not more important than the point I'm going to make. So just be quiet for 1 second. So at the beginning of the season, I'd seen this happen with David Beckham over a period of sort of 6 to 8 months at United. I'd seen it happen with, you'd seen it happen with maybe other players. I think with Roy and the manager, there was always a chance that this was going to come to this. Always a chance that this was going to come to this, because I said before they were absolute mirrors of one another. Unforgiving, wouldn't back down on anything. Stubborn, but not in a way which is negative, but incredibly, their view, stuck to it, had to be sure about it, authoritative. In pre-season, we went to Portugal, and Roy was staying at a resort down the road. We arrived at the resort up the road, literally half a mile away, about a mile away. The whole team was staying at this resort up the road.
No, they weren't, Gary.
They were.
Your brother didn't stay at the resort.
They did.
Scorsese didn't stay at the resort.
No, they
didn't. Their families, and they were going back to their families in the evenings.
No. So
I guarantee you.
No. So right. So basically, Roy was staying at a resort called Quinta del Lago, and the team was staying at a resort called Valdelobo. And he came up, and to be fair, I think your villa was unsatisfactory.
Yeah. I had my wife and 5 children with me.
Yeah. So he was pissed off.
So he two-bedroom place. Yeah.
So he basically went back down the road to stay in the complex. So that was the first thing that happened in pre-season. I was actually training with Roy for about 6 weeks in the gym before this happened, and it was building up. There were things happening where you could see this moment was sort of coming. And on the day of the meetings that Roy mentions, I mean, I swapped with him. I was supposed to be doing that Middlesbrough MUTV thing, and I swapped with him because of...
I was injured.
He was injured, and I don't know how it happened, but we swapped basically. We're both injured, but Roy had been away or something like that. Anyway, the manager came down into the dressing room, and the minute that he said, you know, you need to watch the video, everyone needs to watch the video, and you said, yeah, come on, let's go upstairs, I thought, that's it. That's it. I just knew. I knew Roy, I knew the manager, he knew the manager. I just thought that was it. There was no way that he was going to step back. There was no way the manager was going to step back. There were things that were said in that room, to be honest with you, that I thought. There was a moment where you spoke to Carlos, and I think he said something to the manager that I remember. I'm not going to, it's for you to say what you want to say. And I just think, I thought, no, there's no way that this is going to carry on. I was hoping it could. I think Roy makes a point earlier that's absolutely true. I think if Roy had been 27, 28, at the level playing that he probably was at 27, 28, I think he did say things when he was 27, 28 that you could deem to be unacceptable. But I think at 34, it was just coming to an end. And I'm asked Roy the question, would you, the manager, have got rid of Roy Keane, the player, after that meeting? I think you would.
No.
I think you would. No, I'm not asking you a question.
Well, I think the meeting was right at the end, but I wouldn't have let it get to that.
No, but I think if a player come into the dress, I think if that meeting was horrific, by the way. I mean, it was.
Which meeting? The meeting in the dressing room?
No, the meeting where we watched the video. Oh. It was horrific. Let's be clear here. No, I'm not. It's not fun, honestly. You know, there were some lines in there that were. No, honestly, it was horrific.
What are you talking about? The video or the meeting?
The video, the meeting. The watching of the video. Then the meeting after that, which was basically Roy and the manager, Carlos, Edward, the bit that, it was horrific. For lads in the dressing room...
He has it in his book, what he said.
Pardon?
He has it in his book, what he said to Keane and Ferguson.
Yeah.
So.
For the lads in the dressing room who had obviously been in the club for 10, 15 years, to see this happening, it was horrific. Honestly, I mean, we spoke up, you know, Giggsy would speak up, I would speak up. Honestly, you couldn't say anything. You could not say anything. It was, you thought, oh, for fuck's sake. You knew that was, you knew that was it. You knew that was it.
I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't.
I genuinely believe that Roy Keane, the manager, would have gotten rid of Roy Keane, the player, that day.
No, Gary,
I think
so wrong, man.
No, I think you would. I think he would. But actually, from our point of view, as players, we didn't have a problem. We did not have a problem because we worked with Roy for 12 years. From our point of view, I think his interview after Bayern Munich maybe in 2002, where he went straight on to ITV at the time, I thought that was probably more harsh than maybe the stuff that was said on the video on the day. You remember you questioned the...
Yeah, but the manager didn't mind me doing stuff like that.
No, that's what I mean. That's my point. I thought that was actually worse from a point of view of more public. It was more... So for me, I was sat there thinking, fuck, this is horrific. It's a bad meeting. It was a shocking day. It was a shocking day, honestly it was. And I can only say that from a point of view. Every player in that dressing room walked out of that room that day thinking, fuck hell, something's going to give here. Something's going to give. And it had been coming on it for a month. It had been coming for a month or 6 weeks. There was something else happened. I can't remember what it was. Something else happened before that, I think. There was something else happened. I thought, it's just... I'd seen it with Bex, you know, where that relationship starts. That's how Bex is, you know, been in the stand at Leeds, if you remember. Yeah. And you just see it happening, you just think...
It'd be easy to look at that as a sliding doors moment of you swapping to do that Middlesbrough game, but the way you're talking... Even if you hadn't gone on MUTV, something would have happened around then? Was the writing on the wall?
I see it slightly different to Gary, as I would do, because I was obviously in the middle of it. But even, again, I suppose my few hang-ups is yeah, there was all that tension. And just say, yeah, it was coming to a breaking point. Then you handle it differently. Would it be, I'm sitting down with David Gill and they're passing me statements about how long I've been at the club. cash flow problems, leaving, but you can sign for another club. These are just lies. That's
no,
the bit.
We obviously we didn't say.
Yeah, of course.
I'm hearing this for the first time. That bit. I mean, I'd not heard that. But we obviously were after the Friday.
Yeah.
After the Wednesday, whatever it was, Tuesday or Wednesday, the meeting happened with the video. What happened after that? I don't think you came in. Did you not come in for 2 days, or did you come in?
I think I was, yeah.
Oh, was you?
Yeah, where else would I gone?
To your own villa in Portugal, but.
Nice.
I'll tell you the strange thing about the villa. I go back to this. You started something. No. Let me finish this now.
He came up. He said,
"Your brother's involved in this." I've been on holiday for a week. This is vital. I came up in Carlos because he's Portuguese. It was his pal doing all the villas. Brought me to this villa. My daughter's here tonight, and she'll back me up. She was 1 at the time, but she'll back me up. We walked around. My wife is a very placid woman, believe it or not, and we walked around this villa. Carlos was involved in it, and I remember going, there's glass tables, there was a plunge pool, it was like 3 bedrooms, and I'm going, this won't do with the family. This, obviously, we'd 5 kids at the time. I'm going, no. And I remember saying to Carlos, but and I rang the people who we just left the villa from, and we were paying that. And I went, is it available for another week? And ironically, what I found out later on, Scholesy wasn't staying on the resort. He was staying down with his family, no big deal. And I think Phil, and the manager eventually got upset with me, but what he was doing was organising lunches. And I guarantee you, me and my wife and my family were at every lunch and every meal where all the other players were off doing. So this idea that I was off-site and doing my own thing. And I remember the manager came, he came out 1 or 2 days late. That was it. And Carlos obviously was saying, I had a fallout with Roy and he's staying at this villa. And Ferguson pulled me in again in the dressing room, and the players were effing and blind and going, I said, what is the bit? Like, really, to me, going, and I felt like saying, well, there's other players staying outside, but I didn't want to throw them under the bus with me. And I remember going, what? And really over the top stuff. And I remember we were training the next day, and typical Ferguson, we're all doing stretches, and he walks over, if you remember this, because the owner of the complex as well, or one of the owners was a Dutch guy. Fergus, do you remember? Yeah. So we're all sitting there doing stretches. We're all doing stretches. First came out, I'm looking for some senior players. Walk past me, obviously. Forget that I'm the captain. I need some senior players, you know. Gary, Ryan, and whoever it was. You've got to go for the Chinese tonight. Am I right? Was it a Chinese?
I think it may have been, yeah.
Yeah. Fucking Chinese. And they were going for the Chinese. Yeah, without you, Roy, you know, like, you can stick your Chinese. So it was all that kind of, it's all Ferguson's fault.
And
I like the Chinese as well, I thought.
I always remember saying, you know, all these things that were wrong with his villa, and then like this delay, and saying, and the pool's fucking freezing.
It was a plunge pool. It was freezing. Got 5 children. Christ.
The pool was cold.
Would you stay there?
You know,
you just told me you've been skiing 5 times in the last year. Where do you get the money for that?
I like it.
Jesus. It's loaded. So that was the start of it.
Yeah, no, sure. The clock's against us, so just literally one last question on it, really. You know, when you're in the office and you've just watched the video and the stuff you're referencing, Roy talks about it in his book, what he said to Kiraz, I won't repeat it here, you know, you've a bit of a go at Ferguson. Does any part of you, when you're in that zone where stuff's coming out, think, I am crossing the line here?
No, you gotta relax yourself here a second. Because same with Saipan, people say, oh, you know, could you handle it differently?
Yeah.
Could you stood back? What, and let people walk all over you? The key is, when I watch this video, whatever about was said afterwards, listen, I'm sure you'll go into it later, same with Saipan, people making accusations against you, and you're sitting there going, what do you want to say? Going, no, that's fine, you're gonna fight, you have to fight your corner, you have to defend yourself. And again, the key for me is, whatever the video, and Gary said it was intense, we had a lot of heated discussions over the years, sometimes as a team, but you got to roll with that. That's grown men. We're fighting for the same things. There is going to be a bit of argy-bargy. I'm sure there's people here working in industries where things get heated. I didn't leave the office that day and thinking, that's the end of my career at Manchester. I didn't think so.
Okay.
Listen, I didn't think it was all great. You know, let's go for a bite to eat tonight. But I'm thinking, this is all. And sometimes I think when you have these debates or heated arguments, I think it's good. I think it's good because you're all looking for the same things. You're all hungry. You want the same thing. No problem. But if you think I'm going to sit there, I don't care if it's Alex Ferguson or the Pope, and they start saying, yeah, you're going to do it. Yeah, I'm going to fight my corner. What do you want me to do?
Yeah. But then,
because I tell you, if I sat there and said that, and I get to the players, they'd be going, hey, what's up with him? Just like a few months earlier when Carlos Queiroz threw the bib at me when you just stand up front.
Okay.
I had to take that and go, all right, listen, sometimes the coaches are upset with something. I'll roll with it.
Yeah.
But when they treat you with such disrespect and then put statements in front of you and say, all right, thanks for 11.5 years. Ferguson thought he was pulling me a couple of days later going, listen, right, your days are numbered. We'll get to January, or let's get to the end of the season. Okay. And I tell you what, I was at the club when Brian Robson left. I was at the club when Steve Bruce left. 2 brilliant servants for Man United. And I didn't like the way they were treated at the end. So people talk about Ferguson's man management. Don't be kidded on by all of it either. Yeah. Don't be kidded on by all that. And Ferguson came out afterwards going, well, I always done what was best for United, Manchester United. Nonsense. His son played for the club, won a league medal, Darren. Very lucky. His brother was chief scout for Man United for a long time. Hey, listen, I'm surprised his wife wasn't involved on the staff somewhere. Darren, his son, was at Preston one time. Darren loses his job. A couple of young players on loan for Man United. Guess what happens the next day? They're pulled out of Preston. Is that what's doing the best for Man United? Do me a favour.
So, in Pret a Manger this morning, I was so calm.
When did you last speak to Ferguson?
Yesterday. Not since then, obviously.
Not one conversation?
I think when he apologises to me, I probably will say hello to him, yeah. No interest in speaking to the man.
Nothing even over the past year, the ill health, made you think, maybe I'll just give him a call, maybe life's too short?
No. When he apologises to me, and David Gill. No problem.
All right, welcome back. So we're going to get ready and go again. How you doing, Nathan?
I'm all right now. Good half-time break.
I think I got through half of the first page of things we were going to talk about tonight. We are going to give away a prize at the end of this section. Cadbury have been very generous. Yeah, you'll get to go to the Premier League game of your choice and flights as well. And that will come up in, 45 minutes' time, give or take.
Yeah, we are here tonight with thanks to Cadbury, celebrating their 3rd year as official snack partner to the Premier League. And as we mentioned before, it's a big night for us because all the money raised here is going to Aware, who are Cadbury Ireland's charity partners. So check out aware.ie. It's going to raise a huge amount of money. So again, if we don't get a chance later on, thank you all so much for coming out. Hopefully you're enjoying it. And yeah, let's get started with the second half.
Yeah, they've been brilliant guests so far. Roy Keane, Gary Neville, everyone.
Give Gary the chant again. Come on.
Let's jump straight in. Are you enjoying punditry? Is it something that you suspect you're going to do for a long time, Gary?
I don't think I'll do it for a long time. I think that I feel like 7 years now, I think unless you evolve, essentially you just lose touch with the game a little bit and you just feel like you said the same things over and over again. And I do quite a lot of it. I'm on sort of like 40, 50 times a year. Yeah. I think commentary's okay in the sense that every game's different, but in terms of incidents that you see on the pitch, that you discuss in the studio, there's only so many certain types of incidents that you can see. There's only certain types of, your position on each thing each season is the same. So if you've got a position on diving or if you've got a position on VAR, it's the same season in, season out. It doesn't essentially change. And I feel like I'm getting to that moment now where within the next 2 or 3 years, I'll have to evolve or essentially just, do something different. I feel like that. I did Monday Night Football for 4 or 5 years. Now I don't do it every week through my own choice. I just said, I've done enough. I think, now Cara does it. So I think I was conscious that, staying too long doing something. I think that for me, I feel like at the moment, like I need to change in terms of what I do.
Right. That's a fascinating thing that you say you lose touch with the game.
You don't lose touch with what you're seeing, but just sometimes what's happening in the changing room. Obviously, Roy was in the changing room last season. I've not been in the changing room now for 3 seasons. If you're not in a changing room, you do lose touch with the changing room. You do lose touch with the coaching. And I just feel that I'm more now qualified maybe to speak about other things in football than I am about actually sometimes on the pitch. I feel like in terms of... I'm not developing my tactical knowledge or my understanding of the game. My knowledge is my knowledge and it's not improving. Maybe I'm understanding a lot more about dealing with agents or dealing with club issues and sort of finances and stuff like that because of Salford. So I'm improving in some areas, but I just feel if I'm commenting on football games, then I'll have to change and evolve in the next few years because I won't go back into a changing room, obviously.
Who do you like watching as a pundit? You can say Gary.
Listen, I tolerate Gary, obviously. Yeah, I don't really listen to too many of them. Gary's not bad. Graham Souness, I think, is decent. No, listen, and that's it.
Literally. Look, you've obviously spoken about punditry before, that maybe you felt you were better than it, that you had more to give to the game.
Yeah,
and you know what people would look at it, that there's a contradiction then when you rock up in Sky.
Yeah, but I am a contradiction, so it's no problem. No, I agree with Gary there, but I kind of do the TV sometimes because I don't want to do it, if that makes sense. Sometimes you have to go and get out of the comfort zone. I could be sitting at home. Again, I miss the dressing room. I love the dressing room. I love being involved, whatever about the game, or like with the Irish job, loved all that. That was brilliant. The flow of the job. When the games came around, working with brilliant players like Seamus Coleman, etc. So when I do the TV, it's just a case of, again, doing something different experience of away from football. But when people talk about my punditry, I think I've done 2 games in the last year. Don't think for one second I've been doing loads of games or living in the studio. I think I've enjoyed, obviously, been involved in football in Nottingham Forest the last few months. But every now and again, I will, particularly when I'm not working, will dip into the TV because you have to keep yourself busy, whether it be with Sky or and I also like watching games of football. When I was obviously working with Martin with Ireland, a lot of my trips and journeys to watch players was in the Championship. Listen, that can get on your nerves as well. Championship is not great, so when I get a chance to do the TV, for example, if I do a United game or Liverpool, I like watching good teams. So there's a selfish side of it. Let's go and do a bit of TV work and watch a decent game. What's the problem with that?
Yeah. Fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
So why not do more of it? Because you're clearly good
I probably will over the next few months because I'm not working. And obviously I've got bills to pay. So yeah, I'll be on every week. No, I also don't want to do too much of it. I'd hate to be kind of labelled a kind of TV pundit, particularly when I'm looking to get back into management. But if companies get in touch with you, I've kind of always enjoyed working for ITV. So I've kind of got a bit of a loyalty towards them when they ask me. And obviously then Sky is good to watch Premiership matches, particularly if it's United, as I said, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, or again, a selfish point of view, it's nice to watch decent matches. So I definitely will do more games over the next few months. But obviously in the back of my mind, obviously I still want to try and get back into becoming a manager.
I think on punditry, I hear what Roy's saying, and to be fair, I agree with him, because you always feel like you're on the outside of the game essentially, and that the managers and the coaches the managers and the players are always the most important people. But when you think about being a pundit, and you think about the fact that to be a pundit on Premier League games in England, there's about 7 pundits, 2 or 3 on BT, 3 or 4 on Sky. Out of all the ex-players that have finished in the last 30, 40 years that could be it, there's only 6 or 7 are actually going to be regularly on Premier League games. So in the sense that, Roy obviously could do Premier League games, he could do international games because he's compelling on television. I'm at Sky, I've been there for 7 years. We can dismiss the sort of, it's just punditry, because the fact of the matter is we played United for a long time, we think that was the most important thing, and obviously being a manager is the more important, all the rest of it. But everybody would want to do what we're doing, everyone would want to do what we're doing after finishing a a football career, which is going on television, there's only 6-7 people out of thousands and thousands of players do Premier League football matches in England. So you have to be pretty good. Yeah. No, but it's, honestly, and that sounds crazy, the idea that you can actually articulate a message to millions of fans, make them understand what, you know, you've seen in a way which is, you know, good to them and they enjoy it. It's not easy. I've seen really good coaches, really good managers, brilliant managers and players. Everyone says, oh, it's easy to be a pundit. But I see brilliant managers and players, coaches, do interviews, come and do punditry, and they're not very good at it.
Yeah.
So I think we can sort of say that punditry is easy. I don't think it is that easy. It maybe becomes easy to what, because we're comfortable. We were at United. You know, Roy talks about that Middlesbrough game just before we went off. Essentially, if we lost a match on MUTV of that time, it would be me or Roy, essentially, maybe one other that would do the game that we lost in. You'd be put up as the senior player because we were capable of basically dealing with, you know, that type of defeat. Or if an interview after a game where we lost a match, it wasn't, you know, you wouldn't put other players up. So we were doing that for United. So actually punditry does come in some ways more simple. Same with England. Yeah. If England lost a game in a tournament, I would always speak because I felt comfortable. I had no problem with it. So I think that it's not easy to be a pundit. I think, you know, there's not a lot of people do it, and there are a lot of people who, to be fair, don't do it very well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think I said it was easy. My point was that, no, I think it is hard. I think it is hard, and that's why you get out of your own comfort zone and go, listen, if it makes you a little bit nervous, then I think that's a good thing as well. Try and do something a bit different to what you normally do. There's nothing wrong with that.
I think Jose's doing it at the moment. I think Jose, since he left United, has travelled to watch different types of football. I think he's gone in the television studio with Sky, because I think if you remember towards the end at Sky, Jose became quite critical of pundits, got quite involved with them. It was almost like he was, you know, at war with pundits. And I think he basically, you know, he said something just before the first show that he did a few weeks ago that he felt like he wanted to come in and understand it from sort of that other side. Because I was a manager for a very short period of time. And it can get you paranoid that when people say things about you, you believe it's personal, you think they're after you, you think that everyone hates you, you think that there's people basically enjoying you suffering. I never really, you know, I never a point where you sat in a studio where you're critical of somebody and you think, I'm really enjoying criticising. It doesn't really, I mean, there might be some people who have that character about them, but I genuinely never feel like that.
Mm. And are you done with management in your own head now? Done?
Done. I'll be honest with you, I never should have said yes to the job. I wasn't qualified to do the job. I didn't wake up every single day and think about coaching from the minute that I finished playing football. I had far too much stuff, and I was doing the Sky stuff, I was writing an article for a newspaper, I was doing all the stuff in Manchester that I was doing with, you know, Salford and other things. You know, managers have got to be 100%. It's about commitment. We talked about commitment before. You know, as a player, it's more important as a coach that you're committed, that you think about it, that you sort of, you know, immersed in what you're doing every single day. And I wasn't. Other than the time that I went to work with England, which was essentially sort of maybe 10 days every month, I wasn't thinking about coaching. I wasn't on the training field every day doing sessions. I wasn't in the club every single day doing things. I had no right to be a successful coach. It's actually, to be fair, in some ways, it was one, obviously because of Peter owning Valencia and him investing in the projects in Manchester and Salford. I felt partly that I did it because, you know, he asked me to do it, and as part of an not allegiance, but like a loyalty that I said, okay, I'll do it. And partly a little bit of, my contract with England was coming to the end 5 months. Partly my Sky contract was coming to the end after 5 months. Partly a bit of selfishness in terms of, oh, let's give it a go type thing. 5 months, what can I lose? I don't feel I lost anything, even though people would people would throw it at me all the time. But I made massive mistakes. There were simple mistakes, you know, not getting rid of players that weren't committed, that wanted to leave the club. You know, I was a 40-year-old English person who didn't speak the language, didn't understand the league, didn't understand the players, didn't understand Valencia, all the rest of the things. And surrounding myself by 3 coaches who, again, were young and didn't understand those things. 3 of us out of the 4 didn't speak Spanish. Yeah. It's just nonsense decisions, to be fair. So I made massive mistakes. And I'd sat there on television, to be fair, judging, players and systems and all the rest of it for 2 or 3 years, but got to the point where I actually lost my confidence for about the last, we'll say, 6 weeks of the job, to the point where I was like a spinning top. Didn't honestly, which player shall I pick, which system shall I play, all over the place. And I have to say, from that point of view, it was through the bad decisions that I made, but I should have said no to the job. I should never have taken the job. And I plan everything in my life, everything. What I'm doing this year, what I'm going to think and do in the next 3 years, what I'm having for tea tomorrow night. And the instinctive decisions that I've made, opening a nightclub, opening a restaurant in Manchester, taking the Valencia job, they've all failed. 3 or 4, every single one. Every time I've made an instinctive decision that's not got thought, that's a little bit sort of ego-driven, that, of course I can do it, failed. And it's a lesson, it's a massive lesson. Those things have happened to me in the last 2 or 3 years, but I'm fine for it in terms of, it's a good thing. I feel like it's a good thing for me now. So the idea of, will I go back into management now? How? Why would I? There are thousands and hundreds and thousands of coaches who are thinking about their job every single minute of every day, and Gary Neville just rocks up tomorrow and says, yeah, I'll be a coach.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Management is obviously a brutal business, Roy, and Gary's proof positive of that. And like what you've been through your management career, from the unbelievable success the first year in Sunderland, like these things never end well. Like we think of that moment with Ireland in Lille, and nothing can ever get better, and still it doesn't end well. Like, do you ever think the way Gary's thinking, it's just not worth the hassle? Or have you are you addicted to management?
Oh, I wouldn't say I'm addicted to management, but I definitely want to have another crack off it, from whatever the time it is. Sunderland, which is brilliant. Ipswich, obviously there's some positives there, obviously left on a disappointment. Love the stuff with Ireland. Enjoyed a few months with Forest, even with Martin, but I definitely want to have another go off it. But I also live in the real world. I don't think Real Madrid will be calling me. I think I've got to weigh all that up, and unless it's the right opportunity, in the meantime, I'll just back away from it and see what comes up. But hopefully with something come up, because there's something where it's in my makeup at this moment in time that I definitely want another crack off it and see where it takes us.
You haven't really spoken, I don't think, about the end with Ireland since it finished. How did you find out, yourself and Martin O'Neill, that you were going to lose your job?
Yeah, listen, you know these things. On the last game over the weekend when we were away, listen, you hear stuff. You kind of smell stuff. You just sense something's coming. But again, all this idea of losing your job and the sack and finish, all that stuff doesn't frighten me. That's part of the industry we're in. Anytime I've even lost my job or I've left a job, I've never been that upset. I've just thought, well, listen, sometimes you might be a bit angry, upset by it if you think you've been badly treated. Martin and myself with the Irish job, I loved every minute of it. And again, instead of kind of going, I think we probably deserve, I do think we deserved another crack off it, but we had some brilliant years, and strange enough, people still said to me, sorry, it kind of didn't work out with Ireland, and I go, well, it did. I thought it was brilliant. I thought we had 2 proper campaigns, we qualified, okay, we got to a playoff, and I think if every Irish manager had done that, Irish football would be in a decent place. Towards the end, when you're losing 1 or 2 players, and whatever about myself, I definitely, there's no doubt Martin was harshly treated. There's no doubt about that. But obviously, when there's a lot of negativity, a lot of spin out there, and also I knew when our wages were eventually when Dennis O'Brien stopped paying our wages. I said it to Martin at the time. I went, as soon as we hit any sort of sticky patch, now we'll definitely be gone. And when we were missing the players we were, trust me, and I've watched Irish football since I was a kid, Ireland are going to hit a sticky patch because there's real lack of quality at the moment. Never mind if you're missing Seamus or Robbie Brady, 1 or 2 important players, you're thinking, we are up against it. So when we had that sticky patch, you're hoping that people will stick with you. But 9 times out of 10, people will panic and they will make a decision that you might think is unfair. But that, again, I kind of keep repeating myself, but that's life, that's the industry we're in. But the stuff we had with Ireland, and I still miss the Irish job, I loved it. I loved the buzz of the games, I thought the players. I love working with Martin. I think Martin, brilliant manager, a really good guy. With some great days. Jesus, I've been very fortunate in my career, but the 1 or 2 games you've mentioned there were up there with a lot of the highlights in my career, especially when it's your country. It was brilliant, the trips we had.
Does that surprise you? Because I think I've heard you saying before that it's all about playing, that the joy is in the playing, that actually having the night of Robbie Brady's goal in Lille can actually match.
Yeah, but I had to make a conscious decision even when I came back, and obviously Martin, after my kind of dealings with Ireland. So when I came, I kind of was a bit of a conscious decision in my head to go and listen, try and enjoy the good days a bit more. Because when I was a player, certainly, and you are in the zone and you're focused and there's pressure and listen, it is hard. It is hard to kind of let yourself go. And because of my makeup and personality, I kind of had to keep a front up anyway, because I was this kind of machine or whatever you want to call it. So when we were at Ireland and we had the good days, Jesus, they were brilliant. Like the Bosnia, these games, Germany, and Martin, a good guy with the staff. Jesus, very lucky. I don't look back at any sort of regret and go, yeah. Again, I honestly think we should have been kept on for another campaign. But again, I think with the wages situation we now see with the FEI, I knew we'd be under the cosh when the FEI were carrying. Again, I don't know Martin's contract, but I know I was on a good deal. That any sort of chance to say, no, I was. Listen, I was on a good deal, Jesus. Rightly so. You're under the cosh. And towards the end with the games we were struggling with, we couldn't score a goal. We're not daft. You know, a lot of my friends obviously into soccer, and they would say to us, "Oh, it was tough last night. You didn't play well." You go, "I know, I was watching it. You know, I'm watching the same games as the fans. We're not thinking, you're not seeing." But I think what a little irritated me towards you when people said, I still thought the players were giving everything. I didn't feel for 1 minute going, I think we've lost the group. We were losing, players were injured, and because this was a new campaign, we were trying young players, and people should have had the same attitude as us. We all want to win football matches, but Ireland at the time, we said, we'll just have to take our medicine. We just have to get through the next few months until the proper World Cup campaign starts, because basically we signed our contracts to stay on for that. Yeah. But we were there for that weekend, and listen, you hear things, and I think Martin was harshly treated. Of course, I think that, but we'll survive. We're big boys. Life goes on. It's the name of the game.
You mentioned the kind of noise around it. Have they lost the dressing room was one of the things kind of in the ether. And then also one of the other things, Roy, it'd be good to get your take on.
I have to say it.
Well, actually, go on that first then, sorry.
Yeah, of course. No, you're dead right. But that's always the talk anyway. Listen, we see with other managers, a manager loses his job. Listen, if you're not winning football matches, you're going to put yourself under pressure. I get that, of course. But this idea, I think the one thing that kept us going, actually, I always felt with Ireland, and even when I played, people always thought the Irish spirit is great. And that can only take you so far. You know, in certain games, in top international matches, you need quality. And every game, and even go back to when I played, everything was a chore for Ireland because, but listen, to whatever way we play, we don't keep the ball well enough, blah, blah, blah. That's another long story. But the drive and the spirit can only keep you going so far. But I think the Irish players, as I said, when we left the job, I had no bitterness towards the players going, oh, they're down tools in us. They didn't try. Our last game was, I think, Denmark away, and we drew 0-0. If anything, the players were unbelievable. After the game, I was delighted with the players. Were we delighted with the quality? No, and we rode our luck. But we rode our luck in games that we won. We beat Germany here. I guarantee if Germany scored the first goal, they'd probably beat us by 10. You know, but we stayed in the game, and we got to go. We got an late equaliser in Germany. Brilliant. Players were fighting the cause. But like I said to you, then you lose with Ireland. It's not as if you lose one. It's maybe England. Certain countries can carry a few losses. With Ireland, you lose 1-2 important players. Sure. You're up against it. And the bigger picture for Ireland, and it's a big concern for everyone, is the players now who aren't playing in the Premier League, who aren't playing for any of the big teams. Ultimately, when you play international football, that does catch up with you. Now, Ireland can still overachieve, and they've had a decent start to this campaign, and it wouldn't surprise me if they won tomorrow night. But when you keep going, eventually you will kind of hit a brick wall when a few players are missing, and your lack of quality will go against you. But the players, I couldn't. And I know there was stuff towards the end about me supposed to having words with players. You have words with players all the time. That's the name of the game as well. My job, again, when I went with Martin, it was not to be this quiet guy in the background. And people would say, why would I do the media and stuff? Because Martin would ask me. Martin would say, would you do the press conference today? I've done it the last 3 days. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. No, if they said never again do the media, I go, no problem. It's no big deal. Certainly not an ego trip for that. But the players certainly, I felt, gave it their all. And I really couldn't fault them. Was there 1 or 2 towards the end? And when you've been with players for a number of years, and because there was a shortage of players, I did feel some of the medical staff were probably pandering to some of the players. That would irritate me.
Okay.
You know, when you're speaking to players who aren't injured, who didn't want to train, who there's a new trend, and not the Irish, but there's a new trend amongst footballers at clubs now. I had a little bit of Forest, and particularly 1 or 2 with Ireland. They're on a programme, you know, and their programme is they don't play and they don't train. It's great. So they turn up for Ireland, you go, but you're actually, the medical staff said you're fit to train. Yeah, but I'm going to do something back in the gym, or I'm going to have a dip in the pool. But would you not train? I don't know. Would you put your boots on and just get involved in the 9v9 or 10v10? So that bit at the end, but everything, the usual stuff, then people go running to the media, they all have pals in the media, everything, as usual, is exaggerated or pack of lies. But I look back at the time I had with Martin in Ireland, and I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. It was a brilliant job. I got great job satisfaction, yeah. and I was proud to be involved with them. But as I said, we move on.
I thought the picture was fantastic.
Yeah,
I thought it was a couple of lollipops away from being a cracker. Their arms were just there, weren't they?
But that was, the picture what they did after the Italian game. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Are you?
There you go. But just all it needs. Just.
Do you? I know.
I don't know if that's Martin's. Who's that hand on my head? But it's great. But football can bring you back down to earth, because after the game, listen, it was brilliant, and we thought we'd lost it. I think when Wes missed a chance.
Yeah.
And the atmosphere, brilliant. Listen, obviously fantastic, and I had that as a player as well in America. Brilliant. But then people drag you back down, because I remember after the game we're going back, and there's a bit of a sing-song, lads having a few pints, of course. And I remember Ollie texted me, Solskjaer. 1 or 2 people would get hold of my number, unfortunately, and he would text me. And he said, great result. I remember reading the thing, and he went, it's always great when you beat the Italian reserves. I was thinking, cheeky bastard. Didn't, you know what I mean? Yeah. And there we are thinking, Ollie's a good guy, you know? Dragging us down. Because obviously the Italians made a few changes. They'd already qualified, but that was brilliant.
Do you class Martin as a friend?
Yeah, brilliant man. Really a lot of time for Martin. No, brilliant guy. A lot of time for Martin. Honestly, in the industry we're in, and I'm sure the same for you. There's a bit of dog eat dog, and everyone looking after themselves and surviving in the game. I get all that, but I found Martin, even when things at toward the end, he'd fight your corner for your contracts. And I don't mean for like Seamus and Gups and people like that. Right. No, I have a lot of time for Martin, and again, I think the treatment of Martin towards the end, by a lot of sections from the Irish media, it was obviously certainly personal, whatever you say, and it was nasty, because he's a good guy, and there's not many good guys left in football, let me tell you.
And he very much obviously fought your corner as well in those last couple of months when there were those issues, which, look, everyone's heard the Stephen Ward WhatsApp about the Harry Arter and Jon Walters issue.
Oh yeah.
Like,
do you want me to get started on that?
Well,
it's a lovely story.
Like, when you hear that, you go, fair enough, that's what happened. I don't think it was an issue. I don't see why you'd think it was an issue.
Put it this way, when I've issues with any players, again, I don't even think Wardy was there.
No, he wasn't.
No, but I'll give an example of when you're working with certain players who are playing at a certain level. I think Jon Walters for the last 2 or 3 years, because I know he's on the circuit now, isn't he? He's a good talker, John. John hadn't kicked the ball for the last 2 or 3 years, but does a lot of talking. It's amazing. Imagine if he had a good career.
But he's still in the squad.
Harry Arter's now, obviously, was at Cardiff, went on loan there, got relegated. Wardy. I don't think Wardy can get in the Stoke team at the moment. Stoke were bottom of the league. So, I don't know, maybe at a point, I don't know.
Would you class them as friends?
Does any part of it, though, when you look at, say, so Jon Walters is in that camp and he's in that situation where at club level he doesn't really have to train, his body can't take training, comes into Ireland camp, that's relayed to the medical staff there again, he can do 1 session out of 3. That's kind of modern football, and that you may have to change your ways?
No, honestly, that is nonsense. This is the danger of the game. Don't get me started on John. I tell you, I've worked with Jon Walters. Talks a good game. Imagine if he had a good CV. Imagine if he won a trophy.
Well, he went on to have a good career as a professional.
Sorry?
He went on to have a good career as a professional.
He done okay. He done okay. And the games he was fit for with Ireland, he done well, I have to say. But towards the end, when players are turning up and creating stuff, do me a favour. So you're defending John. You know John well?
John has
with him?
done some work with us, yeah.
Have you? I bet he has, yeah.
But as you say, like you talk about that Bosnia night. Jon Walters was the one who scored the goals.
Well, yeah. How many years ago was that? So is he going to live off that? Like a certain player scored against Holland. You live off that for the next 20, 30 years. Listen, I know all about Jon Walters. I know all about him.
Are you going to tell us?
Bluffer. Again, talks a good game. And then there's the circuit, of course. There's all the circuit stuff. Goes on the TV, how harshly he was treated by me. He's crying on the TV, family situation. He's the only one who's... Don't do me a favour. Not kick the ball for Burnley for 2 or 3 years. I used to be driving the train, he'd be on the radio. You know what I mean? Why don't you lay low for a while? Lay low, take it easy.
Sorry,
look at his medals. Oh, that wouldn't take long, yeah. Couldn't wait to get out of Ipswich when I was the manager, making all sorts of demands. Ironically, 2 or 3 years ago, when his career was in free fall and he had injuries, he went back to Ipswich on loan. Fantastic. I was laughing my head off. Laughing my head off. He missed the game. We get beaten at Wales. John played, didn't have a good game. Wardy played. They need to go back and watch some of these games back. Remind themselves how bad they were. John misses the game. I think we go to Turkey. He speaks to Martin. He needs to rest for the game because Ipswich are playing Hull away, mighty Hull. And misses the game with Ireland. And guess what? Ipswich got beaten up at Hull. And I think that might have been one of the last games John had because, again, whatever programme he was on wasn't working. Because he finished with a knee problem 2 years early. Will you be seeing John soon?
I have no idea. Probably not now, I suspect.
Pass on my best to him.
I'll be sure.
No, he promised to pay me a visit at my house a few years ago and I'm still waiting. And I gave him the address. Good old John.
You said there about the next step and a return to management that...
For who?
For you. And
From who said this?
No, you were saying just there about potentially returning and you're not waiting for... You said this.
Yeah.
You're not expecting a call from Real Madrid anytime soon.
Yeah. You never know. Gary got a call from Valencia.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got the call. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got the call from Manchester United. Like, did part of you think, you know what?
No.
Maybe.
Listen, that was never going to happen. Not with. I think there's somebody still in the background there having a say. No, that was brilliant for Ollie. And again, in sport, you need a bit of luck, a bit of timing, and it was brilliant for Ollie. So, would it be same with Lampard? I think goes into Chelsea at the right time. Neil Lennon goes back to Celtic. You need a few breaks in this game, and maybe I get an opportunity I don't think I feel I'm going to get. So, please God, something might come up.
Do you intend on going out on your own now, or would you go back in somewhere with Martin?
No. I think obviously after in fairness, me and Martin discussed it many times when I was with Ireland. The role suited me at international football, and we both agreed even before Martin went up to Forest that we probably it wouldn't suit me being assistant at club level. So when I went up to Forest, the plan was again my contract would have sorted out that I'd probably just go up there till the summer just to try it. Yeah. But I knew if I go back in the club, it's got to be the manager. Simple as that. But I had obviously a bit of loyalty towards Martin. I didn't think Martin would go so quickly after I left, but I knew after kind of a month or two that the assistant manager's role at club level didn't really suit me. It was fine with Ireland, there was no problem, because obviously you're not together every day, etc. But the club stuff, no, I definitely would have to go back in and be a manager.
And do you talked about the modern dressing room and all this kind of stuff. Do you feel like you have to hold your tongue when you go back in? Do you feel like you have to adapt the way you'd like to manage, the things you'd like to say to players?
But I'm intrigued by people who talk about my role in the dressing room, particularly people who've never been in the dressing room with me. It's amazing what people think I do in the dressing room.
Yeah.
I usually kill 3 people a week.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be the perception.
No, I'm fairly placid in the dressing room. Trust me. Huh? This image is hard to shake it off, I know. But you ask any of the players who worked with me for a long time, even the lads at Sunderland who were there for a year or two, honestly, quite relaxed. Even my time at Ipswich, people kind of almost write me off because of that. But listen, there was pluses at Ipswich. I think it's a slightly different role with Ireland, but I enjoyed that. But this might surprise you though. Have I made mistakes? Yeah, of course I have.
Sure.
And Gary was on about there, whatever industry you're learning, you're trying to obviously become better at it. But I don't think I need to move it so far away from what my traits are, because my traits have took me so far. But do I have to improve in certain aspects of my management skills? Absolutely. And I've made mistakes, but hopefully I'll learn from them. Strange enough, I'll probably make lots of more mistakes. But again, don't think for 1 second when I'm working with players in the dressing room or on the training pitch. Obviously, Gary made. I'm actually quite, believe it or not, relaxed when I'm working with players. Do I put demands on them? Of course I do, but I feel like it's kind of got to the stage where people say to me, I was very demanding, as if I should almost apologise for it, particularly when I'm in the coaching role. When people say, the modern players don't like that. Yeah. But I'm not doing it all the time. If you're doing that every day, if Alex Ferguson didn't do that every day, people talk about the hairdryer, you just try and get the timing right, when to have a go at players, whether at the time people thought I was having a go at Jon Walters or Harry Hart. Sometimes you're trying to motivate people, and sometimes you're motivating them. Sometimes you get it wrong. Some players enjoy that. They go, yeah, I enjoyed that heated discussion, whatever you might say. But again, obviously you've got to pick and choose. But other players react to it. You go, I think you're, again, you've got to be John and Harry at the time, or obviously Wardy wasn't in there. Maybe the issue's you, lads. Because I sometimes would step back and go, did I get that drastically wrong with a situation at Sunderland, maybe at Ipswich? I go, maybe I did, but other things, maybe they got it wrong. Maybe they overreacted. Because sometimes when managers that I go with me, Brian Clough, these are great managers. Brian Clough, you're on about motivate. Brian Clough, and it's well documented, punched me after a game one night with Crystal Palace in the cup. I know it's laughing, it's funny. Brian Clough is a genius. Did I take it that badly off him? I just went, no. He was upset, he was heated, and he punched me. But I remember thinking, I still think you're a brilliant manager. And I came in the next day and I trained, and I didn't text anyone in the media or ring somebody or go on WhatsApp or Twitter, whatever they go on. I said, somebody punched me. I just went, the manager's upset. You take it. You take it. But players, you take it. So I'm not changing my ways for nobody.
Yeah. And
but I'm learning.
WhatsApp. Are you like bored around the house? Are you itching to get back in? Like if a job didn't come, what would the next 10, 20 years be?
I've been very lucky. I'm definitely, when I analyse my career, I'm one of the luckiest guys on the planet. And I never get bored. I'm never at home going, I've always got something to do. Obviously, 5 children keeps you busy. I've got my couple of dogs, my wife. I get a few little bits of work. But I'm never bored. I always keep myself busy. I go and see somebody, or I come back to Ireland quite a bit, go down to Cork, watch matches. I go to Croke Park. I like watching rugby. Never get bored. I'm very lucky in my life. Honestly, I have no complaints. And this idea, I need to get back in the game because I might go stir crazy. No. I'm fine.
Would you ever move back to Ireland? Does that hold?
Yeah, I think so. I think I literally have that thought, I think, every single day.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's always there. But I have to look at the bigger picture. Obviously, I got my family, but they're growing up now, and I think there's not a day goes by where I don't think, I'll eventually get back to Ireland, of course.
I know you've had an amazing time over in England, obviously. Is there ever a certain sadness when you think, geez, my age now, I spent more of my life away from home than at home?
Yeah, there is that.
Missing out and stuff.
I think, obviously, when you get a bit older, people talk about getting homesick. I get homesick every day, particularly for Cork. Yeah, it's really strange. So, but I also know that football in England's given me a great life, and it's given my family a great life, and my family in Cork. So I count my blessings for that. And I'm also only around the corner. It's not as if I'm in Australia, so I can get back to Cork. I do over particularly the last few months, I suppose, when I'm kind of not working full. I love coming back on the boat, have a bit of freedom. I answer to nobody. You're on about TV. I can kind of dip into the TV, dip back out of it. Jesus, honestly, I count my blessings. I'm very, very lucky.
Content.
I wouldn't go that far.
Would you not go that far?
It's a dangerous word to use.
Yeah, you always fight that off. Contentment or the comfort zone.
But I'm obviously worried about. I don't want to get in the comfort zone either, where you think life's great and I just sit back and not do anything. You do have to keep yourself busy. As I said, I look at certain games, look at certain clubs where I think that club would suit me or whatever it might be. I don't sit around hoping for managers to lose their jobs. I don't.
Yeah.
But there are certain clubs I look at. I think I'd fancy maybe doing something with that group of players. But I also have to. Again, I go back to it. I might never get back. I might never get a job opportunity because when jobs come up, I very rarely, never get linked with jobs. So it's not as if I don't think clubs or chairmen or chief executives out there have got me at the top of their list. But what I would like to do, I suppose, sometimes is get an opportunity to speak to a club, even if they don't give me the job. I've been interviewed for jobs over the last few years and they've gone with somebody else, and that's fine. But you want to get a chance to try and sell yourself and look somebody in the eye, and obviously do well in the interview. So hopefully I'll get that opportunity in a few months, but I'm not fearful of it either. If it doesn't happen, I'll be fine.
Is the Ireland job still an ambition?
Who knows? The danger for me now, people talk about listen, it's unfair, because no matter what I say about the Irish job or the Irish situation, it's unfair on obviously Mick at the moment, or the manager, and Robbie, the people that leave them get on with it. I had a good crack off it, and let them see how they do, and good luck to them. And but if that ever came back round, who knows where I am in the pecking order? Funnier things have happened, but we'll see.
It's obviously set up for the next few years with Mick McCarthy now and then, this rather unusual succession plan where Stephen Kenny is coming in, one of many unusual things that have happened in Irish football over the past year.
But that's just the way it is, Listen, let's see how that pans out. Might work out really well. Who knows? Again, one thing I don't think any of us can do in here is predict the future. We don't know what's going to happen with results or our own careers. So again, I don't go to bed every night thinking, I hope that job comes up or the Irish job comes up. Good luck to people and see how they're doing the job. And if they win football matches, they'll be fine. And if they don't, they'd all obviously be under pressure like everybody else.
Have you followed what's going on in the FAI?
Do you know what? Not really. I suppose the only thing I can say about whatever's going on with the FAI but the last few years when I was with them, I loved it. I thought there were a lot of good people there. Obviously, there's stuff going on now that I probably haven't got a clue about. But I love my time there. Some really good people, some good staff. I know there's people in the background, genuine football and people. Whatever we say, football's a great game. So I've kind of stepped back. I've had my time there. There's no point in me getting involved, I suppose, in the politics of it. But you hope they get through it, and I'm sure they will. And everyone can learn from it, because, nobody's perfect.
To wrap up, or we'll be here pretty much all night. You said there stuff doesn't keep you up night. You referenced Saipan earlier, not getting into a he said kind of thing. Does that cross your mind? You mentioned you think of Cork every day. Would that cross your mind often at this stage? Is it still raw?
What could have happened or might have happened?
I guess.
Not really, no. Again, I think it's important. People look at, if people look at the facts, people need the facts. The bottom line, you run about management, man management, dealing with players. If a manager is going to step up in front of a group of players and staff and make accusations against any player, whether it be me or Robbie or Duffer or whoever it was, there's going to be trouble. Sure. There is. You're on about management and getting a group together. And again, I don't know how many games we played to qualify for the World Cup. Somebody might tell me in the audience or Google it or whatever. I think it might have been with the playoff games. I think it was out of 12 or 14. I think it was. How many? 14, right. I think I missed one match.
Yeah, it is.
I think I missed. Thanks, Mick. I think I missed one match. I think I did. Somebody might put. I think I missed one match. And then on the eve of the World Cup, there's a meeting with all the players. Now, forget the kit and all that. That was all sorted out. I'm sick of repeating myself with all that stuff. That bit. And you're sitting with a group of players. You're flying on the next day to your official train, and there's a meeting called in front of everybody, and there's accusations made against me about missing one game in the whole campaign. What are you expecting?
No, totally. It's such a loss for you to give up on that World Cup. Does any part of you ever think, oh, I should have played that World Cup and then just got the hell out of there?
The situations I wish hadn't kind of panned out that way, of course. But again, I know it takes two to tango, and I have to look at my own part, of course. But I just think, well, again, I honestly, but like the United stuff, what was I supposed to say? You know, I missed one game, and the medical staff were involved in making this accusation against me in front. But even if you again pulled me 1-1, and this was on the eve of the World Cup, it wasn't 3 months earlier or 3 months later. We're flying out tomorrow, and you in front of all the group. Please tell me, whatever, there's people in there who run businesses, I'd love to think, what do you think was going to happen when you make accusations against, I suppose, a character like me? Whether it be a senior player, forget about the captaincy. I think if I was sitting there and mixed it up and made accusations against any of the other players, I'd be going, oh, where are you going with this? Well, you know, we're flying out tomorrow. What hang-ups have you got about all this carry-on? Yeah. So, yeah, no, I don't. That doesn't keep me awake. I think I was fortunate enough, again, I'd obviously played in the 94 World Cup, I've experienced the World Cup, I had a taste of it. And I kind of don't think the baggage from Saipan, I don't really carry it around with me. Okay. I think other people should carry it around with them, not me.
Did you carry it around with you for a couple of years? Did it take a long time, a couple of years to kind of dissolve away a bit?
Yeah, I suppose there would have been I suppose the word I'd use would have been a lot of anger, I suppose, afterwards. Okay. Especially then afterwards, again, the usual spin-offs that come out of it. He said this, he said that, did it. Again, people getting sidetracked, I suppose, and getting brainwashed. But again, if all people have to do is look at the facts, and that's it. And I'm comfortable with that. Again, if it was any other player, I'd be sitting there going, whoa, where's this going? Like Gary was saying, he was looking at the meeting with me and the manager and all the other, and you're looking sometimes, and that's where you hope sometimes people go, oh, put a stop to this. But it was, as soon as Mick started it, and I'm sure Mick would sit here and give his own, of course he would. But for the players who were in there, and I know players have all kind of tiptoed around it, I wish one or two of the players would say something like, well, you did make an accusation against the player. What was going to happen? Yeah. I just said, no, Mick, I think you're wrong there, but I'll see you tomorrow on the flight, you know.
Yeah.
Pretamanja.
And there was no, like, at that stage, there's no chance of you going, well, we should talk about this privately. It's just like, you just see red of it.
Again, I think if Mick or one of the other senior players are interrupted, but then there's an environment, again, I can't be criticised other people in the room. Because I think they probably would have been shocked by all of it as well. Yeah. Because again, it was strange enough. It was kind of the evening we had after a week from getting over there with all the trouble with the gear. We kind of obviously got through all that, like you do as a team. A bit like United, you have difficult spells, businesses, people fall out, but you kind of eventually get through it. And you go, yeah, listen, we're better for that. But when this took off, you're looking, going, is someone going to interrupt this? And I think people again were. I think there would have been certain players there when. Well, I don't really want to get... And I understand that as well. I don't think people should all step in. Yeah. They're probably saying, well, as long as I'm okay and I'm going to play in the World Cup. I understood all that. Yeah. Even the next morning, they were all leaving. And I definitely think I certainly had a different relationship, no doubt in my mind, with the Irish players than I had with my United teammates who were day-to-day stuff. And a lot of the lads I played with Ireland over a number of years, I never really got to know them. And I suppose I wasn't really... kind of that important to him, because when we stood up for Ireland, particularly in the early days, you'd obviously come in on a kind of Monday morning, the game was the Wednesday, so you'd leave after some international trips going, I didn't really speak to anybody in that sense, because you go training, you go back to your room, so I didn't have this kind of bond with the Irish players that probably thought and I had to remind myself when I was playing for Ireland what the game was all about, particularly at senior level, and people would sometimes question my character, he was a bit moody, which was all nonsense. I was there to win. I wasn't there to be pals with everybody, and I think that at the end, when it kind of backfired, nobody was going to come up to my room and go, please come back, Roy. They were like, if you're off, you're off. There's a selfish side to football as well. But then again, I think with my traits, as much as I knock myself, I've also played with captains, Kenny Cunningham, these people, who were obsessed with being popular and kind of pals with everybody and obsessed with the media. And you're going, yeah, but you're not going to try and win the game. No, I'm just trying to be pals with everybody. You're not for me either. You want your captains and leaders to be whatever's going on with them going, but I think they might help us to win the game on Saturday. So, but I won't get started on him.
Yeah, I'm sure Kenny would defend himself.
Yeah, and will. You know, it blows up and you go home and it's this unbelievably huge story. Like here, I'm sure you got word of how big it was, and you're out and you're walking the dog, or then you're doing the RTE interview, and there's like a steel about you. There's no doubts. Just this front of someone. When you close the door behind you, and you're in the midst of something like that, are you stressed, or are you thinking, "Oh my God, this is mad"?
No, I think the stress and all the worry comes for the rest of your family, really. Because I kind of knew, I was at the meeting, I knew what was said towards me, whereas other people were getting different stories, and he said that, and I'm pretty, well, I know, obviously it would have been hard for my family in Cork. I know that for a fact, of course. Put it this way, if my son was now playing for Ireland, and he went on a journey and played a lot of games, then missed out on it, I know I'd be upset, even if he was saying, "No, I can deal with it." I go, "I know," but as a parent. Yeah. So I think my family would have suffered a lot more than me, because I knew what was going on, and I knew I keep saying I had to fight my corner. You do in life, sometimes situations come up and I roll with a lot of stuff. You know, sometimes I go with this, I'm not going. But there's other times when people look you in the eye and you go, nah, I can't accept that. And I think that's the way it is.
It's funny you mentioned that your daughter is here tonight, and they're all at an age now, I guess, where they're very much fully aware of your career and all the success you had. Did you go through a process with them where, like, they're asking you, what happened there?
No, they've never really brought it up, I'll be honest. Well, I've got 4 daughters, so the girls are too busy with their makeup and stuff, so they wouldn't be. No, I mean that in a nice way. Kind of soccer's down there. They've got the Kardashians, they've got their hair, they've got all these programs, Love Island. That's their priority, not necessarily my career. And they were at a young age where they didn't have to take it too seriously. So my family I never kind of took my career or my football, I suppose, in a sense. It sounds strange, this. I think if you ever came to my house, you wouldn't think I'd been involved in sport or football. I kind of always kept my family a bit distance from it. They never really came to many matches. And I kind of enjoyed that, because I also think when you're playing sport, maybe Gary will agree, you're kind of like an actor. You are like an actor. You saw a picture up there, I had a skinhead, and you're going. Again, I always thought when I was going to play football, I was going to war. So I was fighting my corner, my livelihood. I wanted my family to have a good life, contract. I want my mum and dad to be good, and so you're fighting. You're like, so don't get distracted by all the kind of. And that's why a little bit when we went to Portugal United, all the families were involved. I remember thinking, keep the families. It's great if you win something, get them involved, but. This is serious stuff. I've took football very seriously since I was 8 years of age. I have. I've just been obsessed with it and trying to win. Maybe too much, I don't know. So I think my kids have always. I remember, you're on about loyalty with your kids and family. I remember saying to them, I never go, "Do you want to come to the game?" They go, "No, we're busy." But I think they came one time to a match at Ipswich. And I know Ipswich, they did. They came and they left, I think, after 40 minutes. I think we were 2-0 down. And I remember I got home and I went, "What's think of the game?" And they went, "No, we left, it was freezing." So that was their kind of loyalty towards me at Ipswich.
Gary, do you think everything you've listened to for the last 20 minutes, half an hour, do you look from the outside with our obsession, this country's obsession with Roy and talking about Roy? Do you find it all a bit insane?
It's not hugely surprising, actually, to be fair. Probably around 98, similar type of thing with David Beckham in 96 with Gaza. You think of the way in which Gaza was sort of 5-6 years, that obsession with sort of one figure, David Beckham then the same. Wayne Rooney's had it in previous years. I think the country, it happens in other countries. Obviously, Roy's hugely popular in Ireland and sort of a huge figure. So I understand it, because ultimately I sort of lived it with other players, with England. It was the scrutiny on players like Roy, like David Beckham, like Wayne Rooney, like Paul Gascoigne in '96 when he was a sort of superstar. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. They're judged all the time they're judged by people essentially, as Roy just said, that don't know them, that don't understand them. And just, if you like, it's like I think the Sir Alex Ferguson hairdryer one is probably the best analogy. It doesn't describe the person of Sir Alex Ferguson. The idea that Roy was in the changing room, sort of ranting at us, is 0.5% of the time. The 99.5% of the time was humour, thought, quiet actually. Some it wasn't the noisiest in the dressing room. So you had people like David May in there, and you know, some of the younger lads who were really sort of boisterous all the time. So you think about the fact that considered, you know, always thinking of having a cup of tea with Dennis. He's one of the only people in, fucking hell, fucking bit
Dennis
weird.
Irwin, by the way.
No, but it's like, you know, they were the only, I think there were only 2 people in the dressing room. I can have a cup of tea, like, you know,
Barry's.
it's like my nan has a cup of tea, you know what I mean? But that was it, you know, they roomed together, they were both quiet, and then Roy obviously was a huge character, you know, came alive on the pitch, came alive in training.
Yeah.
But, you know, he had boundaries. He had boundaries, and to be fair, you had to, I think, my view on it was that, I think the 5 or 6 young lads in the team, we got to know the boundaries quickly and early. And that's an understanding and awareness of the players that you're playing with. It's an understanding of where you could, you know, Nicky Butt had different boundaries than Paul Scholes, than Ryan Giggs, than Roy Keane. You had to understand the different characters within the team. You had to understand what sort of made them tick. And I think the most important thing is you had to be tolerant of each other. You had to be tolerant of each other in the dressing room. Everybody was different. And if you overstepped the boundary, not just with Roy, but with other players, it was going to be a problem. And there were times in the dressing room where I knew, you know, when he said before he was on the list and he joked, and there were times when we knew, as you know, the lads, me, Giggsy, Scholes, you know, played with him for 5, 6, we knew when someone was sort of just like a woodpecker. We knew when someone was just sort of, because you know, there was either something that he'd seen that he didn't like, something that he'd smelt, something that, but we knew that smell, we knew that scent, we knew that. Same with the manager. I don't think I ever, after 3, 4 years of playing in the first team, I never was surprised by when he came in at half time and had to go at a certain player. I knew it was going to happen. You just got to know them, and I think my view on it was that there were times where you thought, oh, you've overstepped the mark there today. I think he particularly did once with me at Coventry. Very disappointed. And actually, it's the only time he's ever come up to me, only aggressively. You know, he came up to me like, proper angry, and I just, yeah. I'd just taken an extra touch. He wanted the crossing first time. And I just thought I might take a touch before I put it in. It's honestly true. No. But I remember turning round to him. You know, his first statement to me was, "Cross the fucking ball first time." And I remember saying, "Fuck off," which, you know, wasn't particularly well taken.
No respect.
He was the instigator.
No respect.
And to be fair, I knew that I was going to have a problem at half time.
Yeah.
But then, do you know something? On the Monday morning, I went up to see him. You might not, you probably won't even remember. One thing that I always thought that it was a problem was if you let things fester with Roy, particularly, you know what I mean? If it went 1 day without speaking to him, then 2 days, then 3 days, then 4 days. I saw players do this, and I used to say, you know, if that happened, I used to say, just go and speak. Just go and speak. And I remember going up to speak to him on the Monday, and it was fine. But I think because I think, you know, as a younger player, and I was a younger player at the time, probably 22, 23, you either let it fester and then it evolved into something that was bigger than it actually was, or you dealt with it there and then. And I think, you know, he had a similar situation with Giggsy, I think, at one point, and maybe other players where there were moments where, I actually remember once getting in one morning, actually, to be fair, we were probably the first in the morning, like 8 o'clock or something like that. I remember him and Giggsy started an argument about 8 o'clock, and I was listening to it thinking, oh, this is not great. I'll go get my breakfast. I think I came down about 27 minutes past 8, and they were still going. And I thought, oh, this is not going to go. But then they sorted it out after a couple of months or so. You know what I mean? A couple of weeks. No, but you know what I mean? There were moments that happened like that. But then there were certain players who didn't sort of, you know, that didn't, you know, it festered on and it moved on. And it wasn't just Roy, by the way. There was other relationships in the dressing room where this happened. You know, Andy Cole and Teddy Sheringham, and you know, there were other relationships like this in the dressing room that you knew that the rest of the players, you just had to manage it, but it was usually because of lack of understanding, tolerance or awareness of where the boundaries were of each person. That's essentially what it was. And I personally, from a point of view, never had a problem with it. In fact, like I said before, I just looked at it quite simply. I never chose the teammates that I was in the dressing room with, but knew that I had to. I felt as though I had to get on with every. I felt as though I had to get on with every player. I was that type of person that I felt as though I needed to, not be friends. I was not friends with any of them. I didn't, other than the lads that I was with. I wouldn't go out for a drink with any of them. The other lads that weren't sort of like, say, Phil or Bex or Scholesy or everything like that. But I felt as though there had to be that sort of, because I think in difficult moments, in seasons, I did think the spirit was unbelievable. Our nights out were unbelievable when they happened. They were amazing. Christmas party, or the night in pre-season, or the night when we won the league. For me, people say what the best moments were in my career, there were those moments. They're the things I miss, actually. They're the things I miss. I actually don't miss the football. I don't miss being in the change room. I don't miss the training. I do miss those moments of camaraderie of where basically you're all going out together, you're having a good time, you're enjoying yourself, you've won a trophy, or you basically Christmas party. I do miss those moments. Roy would probably say something different. He might not miss those moments, but I did. I felt that to me that I felt sometimes in pre-season we go out on a night out and the team would come together and have the most unbelievable night. The spirit the day after in training, the day after, that was incredible. And I just thought, something, you can't beat that. I knew we were unbeatable because I knew full well we'd seen everything of each other, falling over or being sick or whatever it was. No, it was me as well, by the way. No, it's true. No, I remember once, to be fair, I think it was 18, 19, outside the Golden Rice Bowl on Cross Street in Manchester, lying down on the floor being sick. And I remember, to be fair, Bex and Ben Thornley and Chris Casper getting me home. And those things you think, but there were moments where you came together and you could tell those stories of each other you lived off those stories for the next 2 months in the dressing room with each other. That coming together of people whereby you just, and that's what made us, not what made us unbeatable, the football made us unbeatable, but I miss those moments, to be fair. And from a point of view of Roy's sort of the last 25 minutes, I've listened to a lot of this today. He's told me a lot of stories today that I find compelling. Just compelling to listen to. He told me a story about Matty Taylor, trying to sign Matty Taylor for Sunderland. I thought it was amazing. I was laughing. I think you need to tell that story. I thought it was amazing, you know what I mean? I thought it was absolutely amazing, where he's actually, talking about his experiences in management where, similar experiences, to be fair, myself at Valencia and with England, and you just think, incredible experiences. I don't recognise sometimes, to be fair, the description of Roy Keane or David Beckham or Wayne Rooney. I don't recognise it actually sometimes. I don't recognise the actual description of them. I know there are moments where they may have done an individual thing, but actually from a point of view of the 99.9% of the time that I was with them during a football career, it isn't them. It isn't them as people. Roy at home would be completely different than Roy maybe in the change room or Roy on the pitch, or same with all of us. And the scrutiny on these individuals is because they were the best players, the most famous players, the players who had the best story. You go back to George Best, you go back to all the players who've had great careers. They're the best players. They're the best players, and they're playing for the biggest club. A club that has an obsession. In Dublin, in Cork, in Thailand, in Singapore, in Manchester, in London, everywhere. That's why Paul Pogba now is the obsession. Because he's the biggest player at the biggest club. He's a World Cup winner. And it should be a compliment that people are talking about him. I don't see it. When I criticise Paul Pogba, when I criticised Paul Pogba after the penalty incident at Wolves, I don't see it as being any different than the criticism of, say, Roy Keane or David Beckham or Wayne Rooney. The best player, the leader, the captain in the team will stand up and he will take the brunt of the criticism, just as the manager will and the coach will. It won't be the assistant coach, it won't be the left winger or the right back or the left back, it'll be the player who is the number one player in the team. And that's never changed. But I'm sure Paul Pogba, I speak to people, and apparently he's a great lad. He trains well. He's a really good person. I actually was at the club with him when he was a young lad. So when people criticise him or put the pressure on him or apply the pressure on him, it's because he's the best. He's the shining light. He's the Brian Robson of the 80s now. United are in trouble. People hung everything off Brian Robson. Everybody now hangs a lot off Paul Pogba. But that's the pressure that he wants. He wants to be the best player in the world. So now, go and show us that you're the best player in the world. Carry this team, which is young, inexperienced, hasn't got the most know-how, needs leaders and characters on the pitch. And I said 2 weeks ago, to be fair, on television, wouldn't it be great if he thought of himself as being the player of the year this year? The player of the year. What does he need to do that? Carry Manchester United into the Champions League, win the Europa League, drive them forward, take it as your responsibility. You're at this club for 12 months and you're going to be the best player in the league and one of the best players in the world. That's what I want from Paul Pogba. That's what I want from him, because I think he's capable of doing it. I have faith in him to do it. But then I see an incident like Wolves, and that disappoints me. So he has to take the criticism for that.
We've got to wrap this up, unfortunately. We've been way over time.
What about the Matty Taylor story?
Is it Roy? Matty Taylor?
Let me do that Matty Taylor story.
Go on.
You set me up for the fall here. Probably won't be as funny here as it was on the flight this morning. Up at Sunderland, blah, blah, blah. Trying to get players up to Sunderland, always difficult. Their wives didn't want to go up there because they want to go shopping. Eventually get Matty Taylor up. He was leaving, I think, Portsmouth, and he had an opportunity, I think, to go to Sunderland or Bolton. So I met him at the stadium, up at the boardroom, gave him all the talk for about an hour or two. He said, I've got a lot to think about, it's a big decision. I said, of course, you take your time, huge decision. I'll walk you down to the car park. As we walked down, he says, listen, Roy, huge decision, thanks for the chat. I said, yeah, you take your time, big decision, I understand for your family, no problem. Bolton, Sunderland to Bolton is no comparison, but listen, Bolton were not a bad team at the time. I see him walking to his car, I said, listen, brilliant, thanks for coming up. I'm literally, he turned his back, I got a text. There's not many people texting me. So I said, hi Roy, it's Matty Taylor. So, I've got my phone. I think it was a BlackBerry at the time they were in, and I went, I can see him getting in his car. I've decided to go to Bolton. I'm waving him going out the car park.
Join Bruce Betting now for a risk-free first bet up to €100.